This is going to be my Avatar: The Last Airbender Canadian Highlander set review. This is going to include cards printed in both the main set as well as the Avatar Eternal product. This is going to be covering basically any card that I think has some kind of viability for the format, or that enough people that are not Benny Wheels have talked about it, and they brought it up and they think it might be okay, or they're I don't know, they're a Commander player that's like, surely this card's good enough. We're kind of in an interesting spot where I'm recording this and streaming this at a time that is after the PPR, after the North 100 set review, and after these cards have been, a lot of these cards have been publicly known, I guess you could say that. Like, folks have been proxying these and testing them up. We've recorded North 100 showdowns. So there are going to be some cards that I may have changed my tune on from the North 100 set review to this set review. It's still worth watching both, obviously. But if I talk about a card and you're like, hey, you dislike that. Well, it's called growth. Try it a little. And I'm not just saying that because you're like 5'5". I'm saying that because, you know, you need to move beyond who you were as a person yesterday. I don't know why I'm shadow boxing with someone that doesn't exist. Well, they do exist. They're in the YouTube comment sections being like, I think this was a major miss in your set review. And then they give us a 4-mana legend without an ETB that dies to shock. I will be talking about some of those. I'll be a little harsh on some of those. And I may be harsh on some of these cards, but please don't take it as a personal attack or an attack on a character you enjoyed as a child or you enjoy now. I'm just talking about Magic cards. The first card is Appa Steadfast Guardian. 2/2 white for a 3/4 legendary Bison ally that has flash, flying, and when Appa enters, airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control. And whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. For those that don't know, airbending can be airbending a permanent or airbending a spell that is exiled. And then the owner of that card can then cast it for 2 generic mana rather than its mana cost. It's worth noting that this still follows timing restrictions, so you have to cast a creature at the legal time to cast this creature. Flash spells can be cast as though they had flash. If you airbend an instant, you can recast it. And it's not like Plot or Foretell where you have to cast it at a later time. If you Appa a card, you can then immediately cast it again and get, you know, some value off of it. So this is a great example because I have played with this card. I recorded a couple of matches with Bant Blink on North 100 Showdown that should be coming out soon after this video. And not to spoil anything, but this deck is so good. Like, I was shocked at how powerful Bant Blink is, especially when you don't have the Seeker Walk, Time Walk spread. But we'll have time for that later because I'll probably stream that against Angel or something. But what I'm getting at is I was lower on this card initially because it is a 4-mana legendary creature. And even though that has an ETB, it has an ETB that at first glance you go, well, there's only so, like, if this gets Caracased, even if I've gotten to airbend some creatures, I am going to spend the mana recasting those creatures before I can then Appa, and it's just very expensive. And that is true, but I think the home for this card, or the homes rather, are going to be decks with Mana Dork, Gaia's Cradle, Moxen, Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Ancient Tomb. So like mono white or white X, kind of Death and Taxes-y, like Hate Bear style decks, as well as like Blink decks, like Bant or Bant Blink, or the Initiative style decks. Like, this card, great when you have the mana to get away with it. Airbending your own stuff is broken. It's so good. Airbending, I've been really impressed with airbending. Being able to evoke a Solitude and then play Appa, airbend it with the evoke trigger on the stack, and then get to recast it. great. Even just getting to block with some of your Coiling Oracles and your Spirited Companions, and then being able to airbend them, also quite great. Being able to save stuff from spot removal, trade Appa for like a Wrath in a way, like save your team, Appa, gets sacrificed, or you play Appa, protect your board, then Caracas Appa, pretty nice. It's kind of a funny card where it is indeed annoying when your opponent has Caracas, but it's not so annoying. And it's great when you're the one that gets to control it with Caracas. And then whenever you cast a spell from exile, make a 1/1, huge. Like, again, not to get too results oriented thinking on this, but being able to airbend just some dorks, some ETB creatures, and then replaying them while getting additional blockers so that I don't have to then use these creatures that I want to ephemerate or that I want to airbend as chump blockers. I get to use the allies as chump blockers, keep these other creatures for all my Soul Herder Birthing Ritual shenanigans. And also just getting creatures on the board that you could Skull Clamp, creatures that can contribute to your Gaia's Cradle, your Quarter Calling, getting things that you can just have block, be really annoying, and then, smack your opponent in the air with 3 power. The card's pretty cool. Yeah, like this card quite a bit. Big fan. I don't suppose the fact that the set review was a one and done means there's a chance of a non-set review North 100 or 2. There is actually one. We recorded another non-set review North 100 episode that'll be coming out. I don't know when. Maybe after Desert Bus? Maybe before Desert Bus? Something like that. It's a cool one. Curious Farm Animals. Single white for a 1/1 boar, elk, bird, ox. When this creature dies, you gain 3 life. You can pay 2 generic to sack this creature. Destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. Card is naturally going to draw a comparison to stuff like Haywire Mite or Insidious Fungus, Cathar Commando, that style of card. Being a 1-mana creature means that you can easily find it off of Ranger Captain of Eos or Ranger of Eos if we are talking about a mono-white deck. You can find it off of Bright Glass Gear Hulk. Haywire Mite is neat because obviously you can find it off of Urza Saga. Hitting non-creature cards does come up when you need to kill, say, a construct token, or when you need to kill like a Voltaic Servant, or I just killed the Time Vault, but it happens. Even kill a Kappa Cannoneer if you have mana for the ward. So there are pluses to playing Haywire Mite or Insidious Fungus over Curious Farm Animals. The 3 life's not nothing. Killing creatures, not nothing. Also, being able to be played more reliably in mono white as a 1-mana card that does this is pretty exciting. I will say, in white, I tend to prefer the larger cards. I'm going to hide Angel's camera. Nobody saw that. I tend to prefer the larger cards. The 2-drops, Cathar Commando, basically, in this slot, as they are a bit more aggressive. There's also another one. It's literally the next card, so I might just chain it into it because they're kind of on the same topic. I tend to prefer the 2-drops in mono white, but I do like that you can find it off Ranger Captain. That's not nothing. Or the Angel, the Starfield Angel with Warp. That's a card that I'd be looking to play more of, and just having more options for your tutors is pretty nice. The card that I'm going to segue this into, no, it's the next one. What? What? Did I accidentally delete this card? Hold on. I'm going to edit this when we get to the actual video. Did I delete this card? Oh, fuck me. I must have deleted this card. Hold on. This sucks. I don't think there's pornography in here, right? Nope. Yeah, I deleted this card. Bullshit. All right. Pretend like nothing happened. Leave it in? God, no. God, no. I'm just going to skip to this then. Yeah, there are no technical difficulties in bossing, say. So the next card is Inspired Insurgent, which is 1 and a white for a 2/2 human peasant ally. You can pay a generic, sack this creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this kind of ties in with the Curious Farm Animals because this is a Cathar Commando adjacent, right? This is more of a Kasali Pride Mage style card, which I think mono white tends to prefer. Certainly the humans version. Maybe that's the dividing line, is that if you are playing a Ranger Captain of Eos, Starfield Angel style utility version of mono white, then you're going to want to play the Curious Farm Animals. If you care about the human creature type, I think you would rather play Inspired Insurgent. It's so funny because it's just a 2-mana 2/2. Nothing. You don't get flash. You do get to destroy any artifact or any enchantment, much like the farm animals. But you get a human. So that is going to make your Champion of the Parish bigger, your Thalia's Lieutenant bigger. It's going to get bigger, obviously, from the Thalia's Lieutenant to this. Works better with Cavern of Souls as well, giving you another disenchant card that you can play off Cavern on Human against Time Vault decks. That's not nothing. I think that you are going to, if you only want one, you are going to play Cathar Commando. The 3 power and the flash is quite relevant. But it's not as though Cathar Commando is strictly better. The 1 toughness can be a little awkward in certain matchups. Obviously doesn't line up super well with Orcish Bowmasters or Renin 6 or Pyrokinesis and Fury style cards. But 3 power flash, being able to get instant speed triggers and all this stuff is really relevant. So I think if you're playing 1, you're probably playing Cathar Commando. But if you're playing 2, then well, of course you're playing this, you're playing 2. I think it is reasonable to always play 2 though. There are 2 things in Canadian Highlander that you can never get enough of, and that is artifact enchantment destruction and graveyard hate. It's never a bad idea to have a ton of that available, especially when you're just going to make your champ bigger. You're going to make this bigger with certain other synergies. Yes, hi Mulder. Pretty good card. The next one is Earth Kingdom Jailer. This is 2 and a white for a 3/3 human soldier ally. When this creature enters, you exile up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater until this creature leaves the battlefield. This is kind of an interesting one. It provides a Fiend Hunter / Skyclave Apparition style effect that goes up, not down. Skyclave Apparition says 4 or less. This says 3 or greater. You don't get the ephemerate shenanigans that you get with Skyclave, but you do get a 3/3 that you can cast with Ancient Tomb mana that happens to be a human. That's kind of nice. There are some whiffs on the Earth Kingdom Jailer. Obviously, not being able to hit Time Vault or not being able to hit Psychic Frog. Not being able to Aether Valve this in to hit like an Underworld Breach can be a little awkward. But this isn't your first copy of this effect. This is your second copy of this effect. Or this is like really committing to the human package or like even a soldier's package. And doing so at a pretty good rate. Like, you know, it's so funny to say, but in the context of mono white, just getting a 3-mana 3/3 is huge, right? This really pushes damage quickly. So this is kind of a cool little option when you are trying to take a look at either removing more double white pips from 3 or looking to just up your human count. I do wish more of these could hit your own stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, arena zoomers feel terrible when they accidentally click on their own thing. It's not great. What is pretty good, though, is Invasion Reinforcements. 1 and a white for a 1/1 human warrior ally with flash. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This is Resolute Reinforcements, which is a human soldier that makes a soldier. This happens to be a human warrior ally that makes an ally. Resolute Reinforcements still sees play either in a very aggressive version of mono white humans or white X humans, or some of the white X tokens decks like Boros tokens, Mardu tokens, Naya tokens. Raise the Alarm attached to a body just happens to be quite good, especially if one of those creature types lines up with what your deck's looking to do. Cool little piece of redundancy here. I tend to prefer my version of the humans deck for Death and Taxes is a little less aggressive than, say, Jack's version or some of the other versions you've seen. But I think there are enough crossroads where you can reasonably tech one way or the other and have them be viable in, different metagames or depending on what you're looking to achieve with your deck. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. It's just cool to have options in a format like Canadian Highlander. Kindly Customer. 1 and white for a 1/1 human citizen. When this creature enters, draw a card. This is one we didn't talk about on the North 100 set review because we looked at the avatar cards and frankly, this set has some good cards in it. Not a ton of cards that we're going to be seeing 1 year from now. Aside from cards that don't really conjure up much conversation, right? We didn't talk about the 2-mana 2/2 that sacks itself to blow up an artifact or enchantment because you go, yep, it's like Cathar Commando, except a little different and mostly not as good, but you're probably playing both. And then you look at this one and you're like, yeah, this is like a Spirited Companion, Helpful Hunter, the Gallant Citizen card that you're probably not, if you're playing one, you're probably playing all of them. And that's it. So, we did approach the set review on North 100 in a way where we didn't want to cover every little card so that we could just make it one episode. Because we've talked about this card over and over again. This is like the 4th version that we've received. It's a little different than Gallant Citizen. But in the decks where you're playing one of them, you're likely playing all of them. The one exception is if, for whatever reason, you want to play this in like a human typal deck. There's a funny old meme deck that I built that was Humans Allurin, which this card, I guess, technically, if you're playing Humans Allurin, like Naya Allurin Humans, this card is better to play in Naya Allurin Humans. Yeah. Cool card. I'm glad that it exists. I'll take as many of these as possible. I love to play with this style of card. And yeah. Genuine question. What's the right number of good cards for a set to have? I guess okay. I have a question for your question. Not to just flat out ignore what you're saying, but what do you mean what do you mean by right number? And also, does it ultimately matter that much? I mean, I like good cards. They're fun to play. A lot of what we're talking about too, like it just, when we're talking about it, like a set is good or bad for Highlander in that like the amount of cards it brings or the kind of cards it brings. I don't think that matters. Right? Like, because the set that a card comes from doesn't really matter in our format, aside from like, I don't know, if somebody's like, I'm playing City in a Bottle or whatever. Anywho. Momo, Friendly Flyer. 1 mana 1/1 for a legendary creature, Lemur Bat ally with flying, and the first non-lemur creature spell with flying you cast during each of your turns costs 1 less to cast. Whenever another creature you control with flying enters, Momo gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I don't think that blue-white skies is that great of a deck. It is something that you can do that certainly has some interesting tools. Those not familiar with it, you're basically a double mox aggressive deck with some tempo elements to it as well. But you're looking to just push with evasive creatures. Get ready for some of the most boring gameplay you've ever experienced. It's not the worst thing in the world because the card quality has definitely gone up. And you can win matches that you feel like you have no place winning off the back of just cheap evasive creatures and, cheap disruption. And this card could show up in there. I don't think that's I don't think that's like a great spot to be in where the only deck you're realistically going to be showing up in is a like tier 3 kind of strategy. But I don't want to be rude to the weird bat. I guess a good question could be how much of an impact on formats like Highlander is it healthy for a set to make on average? Ideally, you want it to be a very small impact, right? Like the player base for Eternal formats tend to prefer when those formats aren't drastically changed by the single release of a set, right? Modern Horizons 3 completely changed the landscape of Magic the Gathering as a whole, but especially formats like Canadian Highlander and Legacy and Vintage even, frankly, which is not great. That's not what we want. People play these formats because they like little changes, incremental changes, and incremental advantage. And then, oofa doofa. Suki, Courageous Rescuer. 1 white for a 2/4 legendary human warrior ally. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. And whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. This card's kind of interesting. It is a legendary creature without an ETB. 3 mana is not, a massive amount of mana, but it is definitely a mana cost that is a little bit stuffed isn't the word that I want to use, but I'm going to use it. There's some blockage at the 3-drop, bottlenecked. You can only have so many 3-drops in your deck, and there's so many good 3-drops. This one does have some benefits to it, though. 4 toughness means that it survives bolt, means that it can attack pretty reasonably as well. Buffs your other creatures, your whole board, other than Suki, regardless of their creature type, whether or not they're a token, all that. Pushes, a lot of damage, has some kind of impact on the board immediately as well, right? You play this card, you buff your other things, you turn them sideways, you get in more damage. And then whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, making a 1/1, which is actually a 2/1 as long as Suki's in play. And then triggering off of just another permanent. This could be a fetch land. This could be a creature dying, which could also include a token creature dying. You could be cracking a Horizon Canopy, something like this. It's pretty good. I said this on the North 100 set review, where this card is closer to Adeline than it is Brimaz. And I think I stand by that. Like, the Anthem is quite powerful. You get something immediately. The big thing about Brimaz is that you don't get something immediately, right? The big thing about Adeline, you get something immediately, and she pushes a bunch of damage. Suki, you get something immediately. Occasionally, you get 2 things immediately, and helps push damage. I could see myself playing Suki in the aforementioned aggressive version of Mono White Humans, or in 2-color Humans decks, or some of the tokens decks that we brought up. The mana cost can be it's so funny that this mana cost is more awkward in mono white than it would be in like a 3-color or a 2-color strategy. But it's, you know, it's not all soul lands and mana crypts. Sometimes you have a mox draw, and Suki's pretty good on a mox draw. I will go on a little side tangent here because this shit boils my blood, if I may. If I may rant about YouTube comments really quickly. Not looking to you know, make a huge thing about this, but we put out the set review for Avatar on North 100. And there's another card where people, it's just, something about how people operate. The other card when we get to it is there's a card called Spirit Water Revival, which is like a divination with an additional waterbending cost. And if you pay the waterbending cost instead of being divination, you draw 7 cards and shuffle in your graveyard and then draw 7 cards. And because we've been playing this game for 30 years, we called it a time twister. And people are like, actually, you don't shuffle in the cards. You just draw 7. It's like, yeah. You know what we call time twisters? You'll never believe what we call time twisters. We call them draw 7s. The shuffling your hand back in, that's not what we're looking for. That's not why we're calling them twisters. Black Caddy Mac Daddy with the hoe up in the back seat. Fucking, oh god, it's just, he's like, so this is like a cool divination that turns into a time twister. Yeah. If I say burst lightning is a shock that occasionally becomes a lava axe, someone shouldn't go, well, actually, lava axe can't hit creatures, and it does 5 damage, not 4. Fucking disgraceful. Do better. Yeah, there was a comment about Suki where somebody, okay. They're like, I haven't seen anybody mention it, but for Suki, her card only says whenever another permanent leaves, not creature. So all the bonuses they talked about for Tolls of War apply to her too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we talked about that. We read the card and then talked about this. What? Do you people fucking listen? God. Anyways, here's the Duke. Rebel Sentry. 1 white for a 0/1 legendary creature. It's a human rebel ally. The Duke enters with a 1/1 counter on him. Tap. Remove a counter from the Duke. Put a 1/1 counter on another target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. The Duke's kind of interesting. It's not one that we talked about in the set review because ultimately I think the answer is no. But because one thing we've tried to do with North 100 set reviews is focus less on these weird niche scenarios. We just A, don't have the time, and B, it's just we don't need to add an additional 4 cards every set to be like, okay, well this goes into counters, and then you look at all the like results from counters lists and there's like 1. Counters is a deck that can kill people. It's won tournaments before. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it also doesn't need an additional 4 cards every time. Maybe if it's something that can be in counters and something else, sure. The Duke's kind of interesting because the Duke is a human. The Duke is a 1-mana legend and cares about counters. So I think that this card can show up in a variety of lists that are outside tier 1 and tier 2. And that's kind of cool. Like, this ability is powerful, and if you can repeatedly put counters on it, then by all means go off. I would play this in my humans counters list that I've talked about before, that I've been brewing. And that's kind of neat. That's kind of neat. But this is not a Mother of Runes. This isn't even a Zach Fair from whatever, what is it, Fallout? From Fallout. Yeah. It is funny that it's a rebel. Rebel's kind of neat. Water Tribe Rallier. That was Final Fantasy? Yeah. Yeah, Zach Fair from Final Fantasy. Didn't I say Final Fantasy? What did I say? In my brain, I thought Final Fantasy. I said Fallout? Oh, same shit. Who cares? It's not magic. It's whatever. Water Tribe Rallier. 1 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier ally. With Waterbend 5. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 3 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Lamau, I thought it was intentional bait. No, I just really don't give a shit about anything that isn't magic related. It's all just the same. Might as well come from one from the other. It doesn't really matter. This card is somewhat similar to Recruitment Officer. Recruitment Officer is a 1 mana 2/1 that you can pay 3 and a white to look at the top 4, get a creature card mana value 3 or less, and put it into your hand. Water Tribe Rallier does cost an additional mana, gets an additional toughness, but can find creatures with power 3 or less. Now, out of curiosity, I'm going to pull up my humans list on Moxfield here. I want you to take a guess how many creatures in my Death and Taxes mono white humans list have power greater than 3. And this is a deck with 51 creatures. All right, I'm just checking. Okay, great. I have my answer. 3, 4, 1, 4, 3. The answer is 0. The answer is 0. Meaning that Water Tribe Rallier in a mono white Death and Taxes humans list just says, look at the top 4 cards, reveal any creature, put it into your hand. That rules. Being able to also waterbend some of your equipment, some of your, your Aether Vial that you're not activating, but you probably shouldn't waterbend it because if you find something, you can Aether Vial it. Some tokens, you get clue tokens, map tokens, whatever, is quite nice. Being able to just tap down some of your cheap utility creatures that weren't attacking to pay into waterbend, also quite nice. This card, I would say, out of all the cards that we didn't talk about, is one of the, like, this one's actually a whiff. This is one that I would have loved to have talked about because that's huge. Just being able to look at the top 4 and put any creature revealed into your hand, and then subsequent that you play that creature, and then subsequent activations are going to get cheaper because now you're tapping the creature that you played to pay into the waterbending. This card's great. I look forward to trying this out in mono white humans for Highlander and ruin your evening for what it's worth. Wolf Cove Villager. 1 white for a 2/2 human peasant. This creature enters tapped. This one's kind of funny. Savannah Lions is no longer... Savannah Lions, just like blank, do not see play in Highlander anymore. The ones that happen to be humans get played in the more aggressive version of mono white humans, even if they have goofy abilities. There's a card from Dragons of Tarkir that's like a 1 mana 2/1 pro dragons something else that sees play in the more aggressive versions. The Wolf Cove Villager is one that shows up in those decks as well. It happens to be a human, happens to have 2 power, 2 toughness is actually pretty nice as well. Isamaru obviously comes into play untapped. It being a legend is less of an issue. And in fact, sometimes can be beneficial if you're maybe a version that is geared more towards doing legend stuff with like Yoshimaru and Flowering the White Tree. But being a human is pretty nice. This is a magic card that it won't be played in my preferred version of this deck, but once, actually I could probably do it now. Once everything has been, added to Moxfield and whatever, I'm going to be updating the more aggressive version of this list to include Wolf Cove Villager. Yeah, waterbending's quite good. People are talking about waterbending in the comments. It's very powerful. Waterbending caring about artifacts doesn't feel like a flavor choice. Okay. On to blue. I mean, I disagree, but also I don't care enough to get into it. Also, flavor should always take the backseat on gameplay, in my opinion. Boomerang Basics. 1 blue for a sorcery, happens to be a lesson. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you controlled that permanent, draw a card. So this is Void Snare, a card that does the first part of this, of 1 blue sorcery, return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. But if you happen to bounce your own card, you get to draw a card. So if I'm, say, bouncing a Moxen, resetting a Pented Prism, resetting an ETB, rebuying Underworld Breach because I fizzled or something like that, I get to draw a card. But also, if I'm just paying 1 mana to get rid of your opposition agent, to get rid of your Collector Roof, to get rid of, I don't know, any hate piece on the board, a Shieldred that I'm going to lose to, and then I get to kill you, great. We already have Chain of Vapor, and we have Into the Floodmaw for storm lists, for like Citadel Storm, Lotus Storm, Breach Storm, for High Tide lists. You know, we have these cheap bounce spells that can deal with anything for 1 mana at instant speed. Boomerang Basics is likely going to be your 3rd option, but it will be a nice one to have. In my opinion, as a Storm degen, this kind of fills this space that Abeyance fills, where it's not Chant or Silence, but it does something pretty nice. And depending on what I'm really worried about, I could add another bounce spell, I could add another burn spell or kill spell, or I could add another silence. And it's nice to have another bounce spell that isn't just playing Void Snare or randomly playing Echoing Truth. This is a huge tempo swing. Even if this is just 1 mana, get rid of your thing so that I'm not getting hit for like 3 damage or whatever. Great. I've never ran into it, so I've never looked. I assume Learn doesn't do anything in Canlander. Yeah, in formats without sideboards, Learn just says discard a card, then draw a card. I can't think of any Learn card that sees play. Maybe... Does First Day of Class have Learn on it? It does. And this card doesn't really see much play at all, outside of like a tier 4 combo deck or whatever. Yeah. Chakra Meditation. 2 and a blue for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell, or whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, just totally skipped over a word there. Draw a card, then discard a card unless there are 3 or more lessons in your graveyard. This is such a weird Magic card, but I kind of love it. This is a blue spell that returns another spell, does so with an ETB, and can just help you draw through your deck. Meaning that if you are, say, an Omniscience strategy, or a High Tide strategy, where you are looking to get Omniscience in play or generate a fucking massive amount of mana, you can then say bounce this card back, replay it, and then get whatever you bounced. Like if you have Cryptic Command or the Boomerang Basics, where you like generate infinite mana, or you get free spells and you Chakra Meditation, return the Boomerang Basics. Boomerang Basics targeting this, you get to loot, discard a card. This goes back to your hand. The Boomerang Basics draws a card, but you could also just replace Boomerang Basics with, say, Capsize for High Tide. I think it's very cool. It's an interesting card that we don't have. We have regrowths in blue at this mana value that don't really see play anymore. But we don't have ones that are attached to ETBs, which, You know, maybe we could even try to set up an omniscience. Maybe there's a way to approach an omniscience strategy that isn't the classic Esper Omnitel or Dimir Omnitel, or like Timmy Tinker or whatever. And we start looping this card with something else. Also, yes, as people have pointed out, because it's an enchantment, because it's a permanent, there are cards such as Philia, Exuberant Shepherd, that you can say, blink this, get a Time Walk, cast a Time Walk, go off. Just other ways of blinking this card, which are pretty nice. Does Hide on the Ceiling? I think Hide on the Ceiling is only... Is Hide on the Ceiling enchantment too? No, it's artifact and creature. Okay. Pretty cool though. Does it not being a May mean anything regarding Bowmasters? I mean, yeah, it means that you will die to an Orcish Bowmasters if you try to go off with this. But they just don't have it. Katara, Waterbending Master. 1 and a blue for a legendary human warrior ally. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you get an experience counter. Whenever Katara attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have, and if you do, discard a card. This is a Magic card that I'm going to pull up a new segment I like to call I'm responding to the comment section of the North 100 set review and telling people they're wrong or bad. I mean, I could approach this maybe in a bit kinder of a way, but there was, I'm trying to find it. Where is it? There was someone that made a big fucking post about cards that we did not talk about. Some of them are respectful. Some of them are probably not, you know, they're not trying to be negative. Where did you go? There was one that I saw where it was a big fucking, it was just a novel. Let me see if I can find it. I don't think it was 305 Tom. Maybe it got deleted. Personally, I don't like how frequently comments that are negative get deleted on Loading Ready Run VODs. I like a little toxicity. Where'd the Katara one go? Oh, I can't find it. If somebody could find it, that would be nice. Oh, found it. They said, I feel like Katara Waterbending Master is a major miss in the set review. It's a 2-mana creature that turns into a major problem if you've cast 2 spells on your opponent's turn, which is not hard to do in a blue deck. Okay. Let's talk about this card then. So, in order for this card to be good, you need to have it stick around. You need to have it... you need to have cast 2 spells on your opponent's turn in order for it to start doing things that justify its inclusion. And you have to be able to attack with a 1/3. So we have, admittedly, Caracasing this card does keep it off the table, meaning it can't attack. You get to keep the experience counters, which is kind of nice. But what the fuck are you talking about? This is a 1/3 legendary creature without an ETB that doesn't do anything by itself, doesn't become a card you want to play after you've met this very specific requirement once, and only becomes a genuine issue once you have set it up twice and you can reliably attack with it. We are a format where people are cutting Dreadhorde Arcanist. We are a format where people are saying, I might not be able to play Ledger Shredder because it's not good enough. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we fucking talking about here? Live Agar? Why? Do you think this card uses AI art? I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, I do get it because there are a lot of people that like watching Canadian Highlander, like participating in Canadian Highlander. Card evaluation is tough, but I don't know. If you make a post that is just like, here are the 6 reasons, here are the 6 cards you missed and why you were wrong for not including them, I expect you to have a better understanding of the format and what you need to ask of cards. What you need to ask of your cards. You know? Yeah. TLDR, I don't think this card's very good. I think it's too slow. It requires too many hoops to jump through for it to do anything. It's just so easy to deal with. Yeah. Yeah, you got Duelist of the Mind, you got Ledger Shredder, you got Norman Osborn, that too, the werewolf. Like, there are a bunch of cards that are going to fill this role, that are going to more consistently do so. It's a very weird one to talk about. Serpent of the Pass. 5 blue for a 6/5 serpent. If there are 3 or more lesson cards in your graveyard, you may cast a spell as though it had flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each non-creature, non-land card in your graveyard. This is in the line of Cryptic Serpent, Tolarian Terror, Sailor's Bane cards. That I do think there is a version of, say, like blue. There's a Pauper deck like Mono Blue Terror, Blue Black Terror. I think there is a deck that you can build in this format. That is closer, like that is going to be close to that Pauper deck, or closer to like a the like Tempo Delvery strategies, the Phoenix strategies, whatever. I don't think that deck is great, but it has gotten quite a bit better with more efficient spells, more reliable ways of filling your graveyard, and cards like this that care not just about instants and sorceries, but also care about stuff like Mishra's Bauble, Urza's Bauble, and, you know, maybe you discard a Planeswalker, things like that, or you an Aether Spellbomb, whatever. Like it tracks other card types, meaning that it's a bit easier to get this into play. The real issue with these decks is that when you get them into play, what are you actually doing? And is that more impressive than just casting, I don't know, a Barrowgoyf, an initiative creature, casting a big green creature, casting an Abhorrenoculus, a Murktide Regent. Worth noting that a lot of those cards, there is a tension with the tired and true big dumb idiot graveyard creatures, right? These cards, the Serpent of the Past, the Cryptic Serpent, the Tolarian Terror, they care about you having these cards in your graveyard, and you want to use your graveyard as a resource to cast your delve spells, your blue delve spells, your Murktide Regents, your Abhorrenoculus, or you want them to feed your Barrowgoyf, feed your Pyrogoyf, you know, feed your Psychic Frog. You got options. So I like that we're getting more. I do think that there is a way to maybe approach this, maybe as mono blue or blue red. Maybe blue-green. Maybe this is where we get up the beanstalk in this deck. And we build a wacky Sorensen-style deck. But I don't expect these decks to really usurp the current blue big idiot strategies with tempo, you know, backup anytime soon. Yeah, but people think that all this stuff is AI art. No, this is just like... Maybe some of this ends up being AI art, but actually what it is, it's just the cheap Pivx, like ArtStation anime style that is so popular on the internet, so popular among a lot of Chinese and Korean artists as well, and Japanese artists. But like also watching people be like, this is AI art because it looks weird and bad. And what they actually mean to say is, no, it's just heavily stylized and cheap. It's so funny. Like, look, I hate AI art as much as the next person with a beating heart and a brain that can add numbers with more than one digit together in, you know, my head. But like the way that people on the internet are like, hey, this vaguely looks like AI, let's fucking kill them, is just so fucked. It's so funny. It's just like, hey, I think we got some bigger problems running around here. You can hate multiple things at once, but it's just I would love to see that reaction and that energy channeled towards, you know, something that you have proof of. Maybe. Anywho. Oh, here we are. Spirit Water Revival. 1 blue for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may water bend 6 generic. Draw 2 cards. If this spell's additional cost was paid, instead, shuffle your graveyard into your library. Draw 7 cards, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Exile Spirit Water Revival. So this is the card I mentioned where people were like, hey, you can't call this a time twister. It doesn't shuffle your hand in. When I say it's a time twister, I mean it's a draw 7. It shuffles your graveyard and you end up drawing 7 cards. The extra cards that you may have in your hand are very rarely going to matter. But just note, when somebody that has children like Nelson calls a card a time twister, they mean it draws 7. Call it a wheel because it's not a draw 7? Because it's a draw 7? Yeah, but a wheel discards your hand. That's also, like, their issue is that Nelson referred to this card as a variant of the iconic alpha effect that shuffles your graveyard and draws 7 cards, right? That rebuys cards. Anywho, this card's kind of cool. The fact that, like, a divination is not the worst thing in the world for some of these draw 7 decks to cast is pretty interesting. Waterbending 6 is quite a bit, but can be done relatively easily with, say, servo tokens, tapping cards like KCI, tapping cards like Paradox Engine and Friends. This is a card that may show up in Paradox Academy. I've cut my wheels from all my eggs decks. Aside from Yolks on the Shag, which is it's not actually an eggs deck. It's a KCI combo deck that plays draw 7s. No Second Sunrise and Friends. And even in that, I don't think I'm playing this because the double blue pips are tough, which sounds goofy to say, but it's like, no, I want the single blue from Echo of Eons or Twister or Wheel of Fortune. I could maybe see myself playing this card in a Paradox Academy deck, but also I think I just prefer Stock Up. As funny as that sounds, Stock Up is basically a draw 7. Stock Up is you only get 2 cards, but the amount of cards that you're seeing, and like when you're a deck full of garbage, seeing just the 2 best out of those 5, it's great. You hate Stock Up? Tell me why you hate Stock Up without mentioning that it's an uncommon and because its rarity has no reference on gameplay in constructed formats. I love Stock Up. I'm kind of down with blue decks paying 3 mana at sorcery speed to just draw some cards. That sounds cool to me. It's such an honest Magic. It's not honest, but you know, it's a reasonable Magic card to play. And I like that it is a card that acknowledges like, hey, there's Hull Breachers and Orcish Bowmasters and Friends running around, right? It's, you know, it's nice to be like, you can get around those cards, but you have to pay a cost, right? Like 3 mana sorcery speed is something, right? That's not nothing. That's feasting for a spell piercer a days. Yeah, I'm never that upset when a card like Consult the Star Charts or Stock Up ends up seeing play. And I was lower on Star Charts than a lot of people, where I was like, I could see this in big mana decks like Escape Shift or like Jeskai Control, but that's it. And Star Charts is like, well, it's actually okay in some of these 2 colors lower to the ground blue decks, but it's not as good in like the Jeskai and the Escape Shift, and that's neat. I like that. We have options. I'll take those over any. I'll take those any day over a Johnny's and other bullshit. It's a love-hate situation. It's good for what it is, and it makes me sad that Divination is harder to play. Divination is the blue mage's Brimaz. Stock Up isn't the reason Divination doesn't see play. Divination is the reason Divination doesn't see play. Not to mention, you can play Divination. Quick Study is not that bad of a Magic card. Oh, 2 and a blue instant speed draw 2? That card's totally fine. That's a reasonable Magic card to play. The Mechanist, Aerial Artisan. 2 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary human artificer ally. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a clue token. Tap until end of turn. Target artifact token you control becomes a 3/1 construct artifact creature with flying. This does a lot for relatively little, but it also does it at a mana value that is a bit bulky. It's kind of funny. This card shares a lot of DNA with Forensic Gadgeteer and Psi Master Thopterist. Just being able to cast non-creature spells, which for a deck like this, or a deck that wants to play this kind of card, is going to be casting, Moxen, Mana Rocks, Eggs, cheap cards. You get more artifacts. You get more clues. 3 mana's not much, especially if we're talking about a Chrome Mox deck or a Tolarian Academy Ancient Tomb deck. Getting exactly clues is huge. That's real nice. This does die to Bolt and get Caracas, whereas Psi gets Caracas, doesn't matter as much, lives to Bolt. Forensic Gadgeteer dies to Bolt, lives Caracas, or can't get Caracas. I imagine this card will have a home in that food game objects time sieve kind of deck that I was dicking around with and other players have found some success with. Kind of interested in trying it out there, but I don't think that this card is going to find permanent residence in some of the Academy decks. Or some of the Academy controlled mid-rangey ramp kind of decks. I said like 3 different archetypes. I was like, it's not going to be played in the Academy decks except for other Academy decks. This card's okay. The Unagi of Kyoshi Island. 3 blue for a 5/5 legendary serpent with flash and ward Waterbend 4. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw 2 cards. This card is not terrible. Waterbend 4 on ward is very funny. It's still a reasonable ward cost, even if an opponent can tap cards to try and help pay for it, right? That's still just a lot of things that have to go right for them to pay the ward cost. It feels terrible when they can pay the ward cost, though. This isn't like Kappa Cannoneer where it might as well have hexproof. It's just, they may find a way, basically. Them drawing their second card, you draw 2 cards. You really just need to get them once, and this does something, and that's kind of nice. But it has a reasonable enough body that you could just play this card and then untap and try to kill them with it, right? Like Hull Breacher is a Magic card where you want to hold it for the gotcha moment unless you are setting up your Hull Breacher into Time Twister, aka Water Spirits Revival or whatever the card was called. I don't know. I'm making a bad joke. Bowmasters is like cheap enough you throw out. Hull Breacher, you really only throw out if you're looking to set it up. Or you're like, well, they need to deal with this breacher, and if they deal with the breacher, they're not dealing with this other card. This card is closer to the Bowmasters line of play where you're like, if I can cast this card, I'm going to cast this card. Because pushing 5 damage, having a flash blocker that they might not be able to deal with, pretty nice. The question is, where are we playing this? And I don't have a great answer. I want to try this in mono blue control, but also mono blue control isn't exactly taking down events over and over again. That said, this mono blue mid-range deck that I put together that I've had pretty great success with, has kind of reinforced this idea that like, maybe we need to look at mono blue again. And also, this sounds like I'm taking the piss. Maybe mono blue should actually be mostly mono blue with like a splash for Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, and like Teferi 3 or whatever. And that's the kind of deck where, like, yeah, you could flash this out. It's tough to kill. You may draw a card, you may not. Who cares? You got to flash 5/5. Very funny card. Yeah. I like this card, but I think the places you play it might be a little limited. And I would love to see people finding other slots to play this. Like maybe Blue Moon wants to play this. Who knows? Tai Li Chi Blocker. 2 and a blue for a 2/1 legendary human performer ally. Performative ally. What is this? Blue Sky Bio section. 3 mana 2/1 with flash and prowess. And when Tai Li enters, tap up to 1 target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Tai Li. Interesting card that is shut down by only having 1 toughness. Even with the prowess, it's just so difficult for this card to attack reliably. Even if you can lock down one of their bigger threats, locking down a smaller threat with this card just feels like a bit of a waste. Prowess, obviously pretty good, but is an ability that is better with more toughness than not. I know that sounds goofy, but like, I think Monastery Swiftspear would be a worse card if it were a 2/1 instead of a 1/2. You know what I mean? You need to have additional cards to protect Tai Li, and to even send Tai Li into combat. So it has a lot of good going for it, but I think a bunch of the negatives just line up a bit too... the negatives tend to stack a bit too high in ways that make it awkward to get the most out of this card. This card, however, Wan Shi Tong Librarian. X blue for a 1/1 legendary bird spirit with flash, flying, vigilance. When Wan Shi Tong enters, you put X 1/1 counters on him, then you draw half of X cards, half X cards rounded down. Whenever an opponent searches their library, put a 1/1 counter on Wan Shi Tong and draw a card. Okay, so if you play this on 2 in response to somebody fetching a land, you're going to get yourself a 2 mana, 2/2 flash flying vigilance creature, and that has replaced itself. That's pretty good. If you happen to have a bunch of mana lying around and you just dump it all into Wan Shi Tong, yeah, maybe you're going to get yourself a 4 mana, 3/3 flash flying vigilance creature that has drawn you a single card. And if your opponent needs to tutor for an answer or need to fetch a land or wants to crack a fetch land for a surveil duel later on, going to draw some cards. Maybe you're in a deck that has gone a little longer and you have a Krakus, and you Krakus your own Wan Shi Tong at their end step, and you just keep recasting this, drawing card after card after card. I think this card is pretty good. It's a magic card that does something at every point in the game, happens to be blue, happens to be evasive, good on offense and defense, and also has an ability that will trigger when your opponent tries to play Magic the Gathering. That's kind of neat. This card, I've seen this card compared to Hydroid Krasis. Which is not the most flattering comparison, because Hydroid Krasis is not playable in Canadian Highlander, more or less. I've also seen it compared to Archivist of Ogma, a card that people are like, damn, this is going to be so good, and then just was not good and did not see play. But this is blue. It's so funny because it just happens to be like a 2-drop blue bird. But this is like the end of that shitty Reddit joke where it's like Stormcrow is broken because Stormcrow, right? Stormcrow is broken because you could pitch it to Force of Will. It's like, yeah, this card's really good because the worst part about it is that you just can pitch it to Force of Will. And it's the fact that it like draws on all these cards it's getting compared to but at the same time as a single card, plus the flexibility of just like being like, yeah, I'll just flash this out and I've got some cheap pressure. Pretty good card. I am playing this in mono blue, but I could see this card showing up in most blue X mid-rangey tempo-y decks. You do want to play this in a deck that can pay into X. I will say that. You really want to play this in a deck that like is comfortable casting this for 5 mana sometimes, or even 6 mana, right? Like I don't think you would play this in like, is it Windy DeCarlo like tempo style decks, but in something, yeah, or flying men, not in flying men, but something in like blue black ninjas, something as like the mono blue mid range where your points are in like Ring and Moxen. Something I could see this card in Jeskai too, right? Like where you're like, okay, end of turn, dump a bunch of mana, Wan Shi Tong, draw 3 cards. Not nothing. Waterbender's Restoration, Ben says as he pulls up the YouTube comment section once again. Blue for an instant, happens to be a lesson. It says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, Waterbend X. Exile X target creatures you control. Return those creatures to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This is a cool magic card that I don't think is worth the slot. Even though it is a bit cheaper, being able to cast this and then you waterbend a bunch of creatures and then you exile those creatures to rebuy them. I would just rather play Hide on the Ceiling. The flexibility of Hide on the Ceiling, being able to exile your opponent's creatures, being able to exile artifacts as well. I think it's just better. Also double blue in a deck. Like if we're talking about Bant Blink, we're talking about like Blue X, Blink. Blue is often your supporting color. It's not one of your primary colors. And so, yeah, I just rather play Hide on the Ceiling than this card. Is Katara okay? Yeah, she's just looking at her hands. She's just healing herself, right? Also, Wilco, thank you for the 100 bits. If Wan Shi Tong has 1 million fans, I'm one of them. If Wan Shi Tong has 10 fans, I'm one of them. If Wan Shi Tong has only fans... Wait, only 1 fans? Thank you for the bits. Also, I don't know why I'm so out for this person. Maybe it's because I'm slowly getting worn down by the loading ready run YouTube comment section in Twitch chat where I'm just like, I need you people to stop and think. I need you to think. I need you to just take a second, you know? Day of the Black Sun, or Day of Black Sun, I guess. X black for a sorcery. Each creature with mana value X or less loses all abilities until end of turn. Destroy those creatures. Even though that you could just pay 2 to kill constructs, you can pay 2 to kill some psychic frogs, some cheap creatures. This is way too expensive. You have Toxic Deluge, you have Dam or Damnation. I'm not paying all that. I'm not paying all that. Losing all abilities is one of those things that it sounds great where you're like, oh my God, this is so dope. I can finally get around all these creatures with death triggers. Tell me the names of some cards. Give me like 3 cards that see widespread, higher tiered Highlander play that have death triggers. Blood Artist? I said widespread, high tier. Zulaport Cutthroat, see Blood Artist. Okay, great. We're moving on. Desperate Plea. MH3 Ajani, you're already killing that. You don't care about the death triggers. The Ajani's dying. Desperate Plea. 1 and a black for a sorcery. It's a lesson. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. Choose one or both. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield if its power is less than or equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Or destroy target creature. So this has a heavy cost associated with it. You do have to sacrifice a creature. There's no way to cast the spell without sacrificing a creature. But if you get to cast it, This is a pretty powerful effect. You get to kill any creature, no questions asked, which is nice to have. Just nice little line of text there. And you get to rebuy another creature, a cheaper creature. I could see myself playing this card in Aristocrats, a deck that I just said is not top tier, but it's interesting to have. This is the kind of card that can maybe help out Aristocrat stuff, but I could also see playing this in a sacrifice deck. I know that sounds like just I've said Aristocrats twice, but I think there's a bit of a difference where I'm not necessarily playing every dog shit creature. Like I'm not like every Blood Artist and every Doom Traveler, but it's kind of nice to be able to sacrifice, you know, an extraction specialist to kill your creature and then to rebuy my Samwise or like a Safi Eric's Daughter, or to bring back a Mayhem Devil after I sacrifice a Karnstruck token. Upper tier, I don't think Aristocrats is the top 10 list in Canadian Highlander. I think that Aristocrats decks have more or less been replaced by token strategies. They pilot very similarly, except token strategies have a higher, they have a better high roll game. They use their points better, and just their overall card quality is a lot stronger because they're not as dedicated to the synergy. This card does a lot. It kind of reminds me of, is it Deadly Brew? Hold on. Please hold. There was a card that saw a little bit of play in Nick Fit from Strixhaven. I want to say it's Deadly Brew. The fact that you have to return a creature with power less than or equal to the sack creature's power can be a little awkward, right? Like, you know, you want to sack something that cares about dying, which is like a one, like the Doom Traveler style cards, or you want to sack a 1/1, like or like a Wall of Blossoms or something. So Deadly Brew is a black and a green sorcery. Each player sacks a creature or planeswalker of their choice. If you sacked a permanent this way, you may return another permanent from your graveyard to your hand. All right, so they do different things. Yeah. There's just a lot of words on this card that I think are, you know, better than not. It's a card that I'm going to pick up a copy for, and I'm going to try to remember if I end up brewing a deck that cares about, you know, sacrificing things and wants more utility. If it doesn't sidetrack too much, what I say are the top 10 lists in the format. No particular order. Jeskai, Reach Storm, Citadel Storm, Mono White Death and Taxes, Rakdos Midrange, Time Vault, probably like a Naya deck, Naya or Gruul. Jeskai. Okay, hold on. Let me go through this. Reach Storm, Citadel Storm, Time Vault, Nadu, Jeskai, Esper Green, Gruul or Naya, Rakdos, Mono White Death and Taxes, and then the last one's tough. Yeah, I don't know. Probably like a Philia deck, like an Orzhov or like an Esper. Trenton can win with a ham sandwich, though. That's the thing. I mean, honestly, it might just be, speaking of Trenton, it might just be Flash Hulk. Yeah, it's probably Flash Hulk. Or like a Reanimator deck. I don't know. The problem is Flash Hulk, it's just so fucking boring. Even if you're like, I'm going to win as many matches as possible, Flash Hulk is not an interesting deck to play. Which, it's Canadian Highlander, you know? I hate I hate this card's name. Why? So why is it not pronounced Mai? It's pronounced May, right? Like it's pronounced May. But I don't think this is. Anyways. May, Scornful Striker. 1 and a black for a legendary human noble ally. It's a 2/2 with first strike, and whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life. They mispronounced UA in the show too. That's weird. I wonder if the show was made by 2 white guys with a primarily white cast, and a primarily white writers team. Anyways, this card is really fucking annoying. It's a very aggressive magic card. It happens to be a human. That's neat. This can be a great tool against Breach Storm, Citadel Storm, any kind of storm deck. But also, if you get it down early enough, you could just... like, it's so funny to look at this card and be like, so this card's pretty good against mono red. Right? Pretty good against mono red. Because it punishes them for casting spells. And they're not really going to trade on the board because first strike is huge. I think you'd obviously want to be a more aggressive black strategy to play this card. Maybe like black-green or black-white. The fact that it's a human is kind of interesting. I could maybe see like a version of like Orzhov D&T that plays this card, or a version of Rakdos, more aggressive version of Rakdos that plays this card. Yeah, first strike is just so funny. It's just very funny to see on a card. I thought they stopped doing this. You know? I was under the impression that they stopped doing this. Putting first strike while not attacking, but I guess it's a rare. It's fine. Obsessive Pursuit. 1 and a black for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a clue token. Whenever you attack, you put X/1/1 counters on target attacking creature, where X is the number of permanents you sacrifice this turn. If X is 3 or greater, that creature gains lifelink until end of turn. This is a pretty interesting card. It's so funny. I'm excited to play this in the food game object deck. Because that deck does a whole bunch of nothing. And you're likely going to close the game out if you can sacrifice enough things. But this is the kind of card that says like, no, actually, it's okay if you just time sieve like 2 times or 3 times. Right? You just put this on a flying creature, on like a Thopter token that you've made, or on some like Ginger Brute or a Cauldron Familiar or whatever, and you get to push damage. But also just putting this on, like playing this in like the Rakdos sacrifice list. Again, not aristocrats, but this card would totally be fine in aristocrats. But in like a sacrifice strategy, like a 2-color strategy where your points are like Mox, Ring, and then probably Reanimate, or Urza Saga. Like just having extra mana, making these clue tokens, cashing in these clue tokens, being able to use them for your Mayhem Devil triggers, being able to sack a fetch land, a creature, and a clue, and you're golden, right? Being able to push a whole bunch of damage, gain some life. That's not nothing. This card, let me tell you, having played against this card in Limited, this doesn't happen all the time. Obviously, Limited is completely different format than Highlander. And I really try to stress just how different these formats are, but also that you can take some lessons from the cards that you were playing against in these formats, right? Evaluating cards for Canadian Highlander is difficult, and people often just look at cards and go like, well, this card stinks, right? I'm not playing this. This is a limited card. This is a whatever card. But I've played against this card a couple of times now, and I look at this, I'm like, oh my God, this just gets so out of hand so quickly. You realistically only need 1 life gain trigger for you to be in a winning position. And then you're just pooping out game objects that happen to be artifacts, that happen to draw cards. Like, it's just, everything lines up so nicely. that I'm like, well, okay, I played against this in limited, but like now I want to try this in a format where I can go like, oh, I can tap Tolarian Academy to add a bunch of mana and then use that mana to pay for sacking these clues. Or like, oh, wait a minute, too generic. That's a Soul Ring. I have Soul Ring. I'm going to tap Soul Ring. You know, that kind of thing. Phoenix Fleet Airship. 2 black for a 4/4 artifact vehicle with flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you sacrificed a permanent this turn, create a token that's a copy of this vehicle. And as long as you control 8 or more permanents named Phoenix Fleet Airship, this vehicle is an artifact creature. This is a magic card that we did not talk about in the set review. And I was initially like, it's 4 mana. Is this really worth it? But this is a magic card that I'm like, I've been thinking about this ever since I made that document. And I'm like, is it wrong for me to just look at this card and be like, holy shit? It's worth noting that if you are casting this card, you will need to have, most of the time, you will need to have a way to sacrifice something for free in order to get the copy immediately. But like getting 8 power in the air that flies is huge. And then if you sacrifice something on the next turn, right? You go from 1 to 2 on your first end step. Then that 2 turns to 4. Then you have 4 of these fuckers just chilling. And crew 1, real easy to get to, right? But also, you're just making game objects. You are just making game objects that you can then sacrifice. That you can then just use for cards that care about artifacts, that care about you having permanents, that care about you sacrificing permanents. It's so funny. I looked at this card and I was like, wait a minute. Does this go infinite with Time Sieve? Like, am I playing this in a Time Sieve strategy? Yeah, it works with a permanent. So like you could fetch a land and cast this card and then immediately get 2. So this card works out well if you're getting aggressive with it. This card also just works well if you just want to make copies of this over and over again. It's a very weird card, but I think that it is likely better than initially than I initially thought. And also, this is one of those magic cards where this is why it's hard for me to take some of the comment section seriously, because I didn't see anybody mention this card. And I'm like looking at, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, holy fuck, no wonder this is a mythic. This just takes over the game, kills people dead. It's okay. What kind of deck can make a bunch of creature tokens? Raven Eagle. 2 and a black for a 2/3 bird assassin with flying. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, you exile up to one target card from a graveyard. If a creature card is exiled this way, you create a clue token. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 1 and you gain 1 life. I'm lower on this card than Nelson was. I know that Nelson and Serge talked about this card pretty positively. They compared it to Graveyard Trespasser. I prefer Graveyard Trespasser to this card. Graveyard Trespasser, and maybe I'm biased. I hate Graveyard Trespasser. It's a frustrating magic card because it's so good at what it does. But being a 3/3 with ward discard a card means that you have a piece of graveyard hate that is not vulnerable, not as vulnerable as a 2/3 flyer. That if they don't do anything, it's only going to get worse, right? Like, think about how it's funny because I don't want this to just turn into like I'm evaluating Graveyard Trespasser. But think about how Graveyard Trespasser is a magic card that hits the table, maybe mucks one of their graveyard cards, like the creature that they put in their graveyard. Now you're the graveyard deck. What are you going to do? You have to get rid of this Graveyard Trespasser, which means that you're going to have to either use a removal spell on it and discard a card, which can work to your advantage occasionally. Or you're going to have to churn through your deck for something to deal with this, or enough cards to do it all in one turn. Very difficult to do if you're spending your mana churning through your deck and you're giving your opponent an opportunity to untap and have access to the mana and whatnot. But in churning through your deck, you're trying to find ways of getting rid of this card or setting up your kill. And in doing so, what are you keeping, right? Like either you're impulsing, consulting the star chart, stocking up or whatever, and you can find them, and then you're just going to die to the trespasser. Or you're playing cards that discard cards and draw cards, right? Faithless Suit and Careful Study, that style of card. Because you're trying to put big idiots in your graveyard. But if you put an idiot in your graveyard, then the trespasser is going to eat it. And if you don't, then you're just holding an idiot in your hand, which isn't going to do anything for now, so you're not really finding an answer. Or you just don't do anything because any game action you take may put more cards in the graveyard for Trespasser to deal with. And then if you don't do anything, Trespasser is going to get bigger, right? It's going to flip. This bird is just a little too, like, honest, you know? Like, ETBR attacks, kind of nice. Getting a clue. I like drawing cards. I like that second line of text too. But I would just, if I get one kind of mid-range card like this to put in like a Rakdos deck or like a Black X deck that wants more graveyard hate, I'm not playing Raven Eagle. I'm playing Graveyard Trespasser. Ooh, my sinuses. Hi, Mulder. The Fire Nation Drill. 2 black for a 6/3 legendary creature. It's a legendary artifact, excuse me. It's a vehicle with trample. It's a 6/3. It says when the Fire Nation Drill enters, you may tap it. When you do, destroy target creature with power 4 or less. You can pay 1 generic to give permanence to your opponent's control. Sorry, no, you don't give it to them. You take it away. I'm going to just reread this card. The Fire Nation Drill costs 2 and 2 black for a 6/3 legendary artifact vehicle with trample. And when the Fire Nation Drill enters, you may tap it. When you do, destroy target creature with power 4 or less. Pay 1 generic, permanence to your opponent's control, lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And has crew 2. No. I would just rather play Demonic Junker or Chaos Defiler. 4 or less is real awkward if you're trying to kill a large Pyrogoyf or a Barrowgoyf or a Murktide Regent. The Shadow Spear text is kind of interesting. But how often do you activate that Shadow Spear? Because I play a lot of Shadow Spear. I play a lot of really cheap, terrible white creature decks that all play Shadow Spear. You don't activate it that often. So even though it's a nice little piece of utility that you can have, I think if you're looking to play an artifact with an ETB that kills a creature, that's great. You have better versions of that available to you. And if you're really set on this 1 mana ability, even though it is tied to this, I think you're just better off playing Shadow Spear, because chances are if you're playing those artifacts, you're playing Urza Saga. And you want to grab that Shadow Spear off that Urza Saga anyways. On to red. Firebending Student. 1 in a red for a 1/2 human monk with prowess. And Firebending X, where X is this creature's power. This is one of those cards that I am low on, but I expect myself and maybe others to play with. Not because of the, like, oh, Pog, I'm going to kill somebody on turn 3 with this card. I don't think I'm worried about that. I'm more interested in it being a prowess creature that is going to allow me to both play more creatures on my main phase, and then also get access to some burn and pump spell mana. And I think that's kind of interesting. I do think this card's a little bit too much of a win more card. And as somebody that rebuilt mono red aggro recently, specifically a burn version of that deck. I don't think I'm playing that card in this deck. And also just like the 2-drops in red are so goddamn good. It's so good. Like, there's just... have you read Emberheart Challenger? Holy smokes. Does this get into Gruul pump spells? That's the thing, is that like, if I'm going outside mono red and I am playing this in a red X deck that cares about pump spells, I just think your 2-drop options are still better. Like, I would just rather play a Bristly Bill or a Scythecat Cub. And I'm not exactly looking for more 2s in that deck. I'd be looking for more 1s. You know? I think this card is just a little too fragile, a little too win more, and not entirely up to snuff. Firebending is a lot better than I gave credit for, at least in Limited. When I played Firebending in Limited, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. But it's also pretty good because it's always nice to have extra mana to like pump into mana sinks, and mana sinks are pretty good in Limited. You know what I mean? Yes, hi Mulder. You want to get up? Come on up. Come on. Come on. Come on up. You gotta get up. You want me to pick you up? Oh, there you go, baby. Yeah, hi. Hi, old lady. Hi, old lady. Redirect Lightning. 1 red for an instant lesson. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay 5 life or 2 generic. Change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. Time to pull up the YouTube comment section once again. Also, this person said that Gran is a really strong 1-mana looter. I'm not even going to talk about Gran because no. Have you read that card? It costs it's a 1/2 that has to attack or be tapped. How often does that happen? Just what are we talking about here? So redirection spells are not great in Canadian Highlander. Misdirection is a free spell. It's a pitch spell. A pitch spell in blue that you used to see quite a bit of play. That has been AWOL for the past, I don't know, 8 years or so. So if the free pitch spell version in blue does not see play, I think it is very unlikely that the 1-mana pay 5 life in a color that is not blue to see play. I guess my question for this card is, where are you playing it? Why are you playing it? And why are you playing this over additional or over different cards? Right? I think these cards are a little, they're kind of like stifles in that you feel so fucking good when you stifle somebody. You feel like a genius. You feel like you're the best player to ever do it. Right? Ooh, I managed to get you. I've won this scenario and you feel like a big dickhead now. Until you die with the stifles in your hand. Until you find yourself in a position where you have a stifle and you're like, wow, I sure wish I had something that interacted with the board. I sure wish I had something that, you know, wasn't squelch or whatever. Redirect Lightning. Wouldn't recommend. Storm of Memories. 2 and 3 red for a sorcery with Storm. When you cast this... Wait, I'm reading Storm reminder text. I'm not doing that. If you're here and you don't know what Storm does, you really need to move me from your second monitor for at least 5 minutes. Exile an instant or sorcery card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard at random. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into the graveyard, exile it. This is kind of interesting. It's a red Yawgmoth's Will adjacent card, like a Past in Flames or a Will of the Jeskai or a Mizzix Mastery, but you're only hitting lower card, like cheaper cards. You're still not hitting artifacts, which the best cards in your Storm deck are like Black Lotus and Lion's Eye Diamond. And while I will play this card in Mono Red Storm, a terrible archetype. Frankly, it's not very good, but it is near and dear to my heart. I will not be playing this in a deck that is trying to win tournaments. Circus of Kirkus, yes. A fellow Mono Red Storm enjoyer for sure. Yes, hi Mulder. The last Agni Kai. 1 and a red for an instant. Target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. If the creature the opponent controls is dealt excess damage this way, add that much red mana. Till end of turn, you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. Interesting card. The ability to have your big thing fight their slightly smaller thing and then effectively get up mana or just pay for itself is not nothing. Fight spells are so awkward though. Like, I would just rather play removal. I would just rather play a Scorching Shot. I would rather, like, if you're looking for a 2 mana red removal spell to deal with something, please, by all means, play a better card than this one. It's just, the nice part about removal in Canadian Highlander is that you often want it to just be available at all times, right? Think about how many fight spells realistically see play in Canadian Highlander. Go ahead. Out of curiosity, how many fight spells, instants, and sorceries see play in Canadian Highlander? In higher tiered archetypes. Out of curiosity, I'm going to look it up myself. Do MDFCs count? No. Does Legolas's quick reflexes count? No, that's not a fight spell. Very rarely you will see Dromoka's Command. But, like, that's it. Like, Bridgeworks Battle is less of a fight spell. More of a... Well... less of a fight spell. More of a... oh my god, I can't believe my land, pitches to Chrome Mox. I can't believe I can occasionally have this land be a fight spell. Dromoka's Command very rarely shows up because obviously it's green and white and requires you to have creatures. And often that card is just preventing somebody from bolting your thing, making a thing bigger, blowing up their Underworld Breach or their Urza Saga. I played Tail Swipe and Primal Might and Bushwhack and Blizzard Brawl somewhat recently, right? I played these in that medium green deck. But it's just, fight spells are so awkward. They get better when they're at 1 mana. Yeah, Rhino's Rampage is kind of an interesting one. Should maybe see a little more play. But realistically, they don't. They don't see play. It's just, you're better off playing cards that aren't going to get you blown out if you're trying to remove your opponent's thing. All right. We got a double face card here. The Legend of Roku. Oh, I thought this was a city. 2 red for an enchantment saga. Chapter 1, you exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Chapter 2, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Chapter 3, you transform this, you exile it, comes back, and it becomes Avatar Roku, a 4/4 legendary creature that is colorless, with Firebending 4, and an activated ability of pay 8 generic mana, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying and Firebending 4. This card's kind of interesting. It resembles Showdown of the Scalds, but happens to just be mono red. Mono red's pretty nice for this card. Draws you some cards, ramps you some mana, And then becomes a creature that can poop out additional creatures and end the game. But also becomes a thing that if they want to Caracas this, sure, I'll put this back in my hand and start drawing some more cards. That's kind of nice. I would give this a shot in Big Red. I'm curious if Angel is going to be trying this out in Big Boros. Because this magic card, I like Showdown of the Scalds. That card was quite good. Boros was the biggest thing holding it back. And now the tempo of the format has changed, where I would much prefer to play this card than Showdown of the Scalds, I think. There's just so many words on this card. So yeah, interested to play this. I don't think I'm playing this outside of like Big Red, or maybe like a medium red plus. I don't know what to call it. I think there's a version of these monocolored decks that are between the medium decks. Like they're not like stompy style decks, but they're also not like I'm playing Mishra's Workshop and I'm playing off-color Tolarian Academy to get to, massive amounts of mana. There's a lot of room in Canadian Highlander to explore archetypes that go a bit bigger, but not too big. And I think this is one card that may slide into that, but it also just slides into a pre-existing deck that we have seen has the potential to take down tournaments. Trial by Combat. Welcome back for the second month. Glad to have you. Good to see you. Thank you for subscribing and supporting the channel. Means a lot to me. Reminder, if you have Twitch Prime, use it here. Give me money. Don't give money to some bigger streamer. Give me money. Please, I'm begging you. My numbers have never been worse. He laughs. Warship Scout. A single red mana gets you a 2/1 human scout. That's it. This is kind of funny. It's a Jackal Pup with no downside, or a Fire Drinker Satyr with no downside and no upside. It being a human is less relevant because it is, mono red instead of mono white. Again, this is something that I put together recently. Like I built mono red. I did not build the mono red list that would want to play this card, but I don't know if there is one that wants to play this card. It's just Savannah Lions in red, no downside is just, it doesn't cut it anymore. Not in 2025. Have you read Heartfire Hero? That card is unbelievable. Have you read Hired Claw? There are certain mono red lists that cut Goblin Guide. Wild. Dalo back for the third month. Glad to have you. Good to see you. Thank you so much for all the support. I hope you're doing well. How you doing? How you been? Thank you. And Angel Pax, new subscriber. Glad to have you. Good to see you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Damn, the call to action works. Begging works. You better believe it does. And I'm not too proud. Of course I'll beg. I'm a dancing monkey. Zhao the Moon Slayer. 1 and a red for a legendary 2/2 human soldier with menace. Non-basic lands enter tapped. And 7 generic. Put a Conqueror counter on Zhao. As long as Zhao has a Conqueror counter on him, non-basic lands are mountains. This card's pretty good. It is symmetrical on both sides of this card. On the non-basic lands entering tap, that includes your lands, as well as the Blood Moon effect hits your lands. Like it is just Blood Moon. Non-basic lands are mountains. This card is quite powerful. Menace on this is fucking brutal. They like just stymieing their mana development, which means that they're going to have a harder time dealing with your pressure, which means certain archetypes might not even be able to pop off on the turn that they need to pop off against the red. They may have to sequence in such a way where they'll play out their Tolarian Academy before they want to, exposing it to Strip, Wasteland, all those kind of effects. And doing so on a menace creature is just nasty work. Getting up to 7 mana might be tough for, say, mono red, but if we're talking about blood and taxes, like red-white, that is a pretty easy thing to set up. And being able to do it at instant speed, where you're like, well, this is where the game's going to change. I'm going to, activate this. Now Blood Moon is active, going to untap, and, you're going to be in a world of hurt. It's pretty interesting. I like this card. I think it's one of the best cards in the set. I mean, I don't like it in that I'm probably going to lose to it, but yeah, I think this card's quite strong. Standard players melting down about this card on Twitter. Yeah, I think it's a pretty big struggle being a standard player right now. I don't know. I feel like Magic the Gathering has kind of moved on from being a game where you can really take a lot of it seriously in competitive terms. Not like the highest of high play. At Pro Tour level play, absolutely. For limited environments, absolutely. But just like the kind of person that builds their entire personality around how many SCG top 8s they have, like that's a dying breed. Because like it's just the 3-year standard rotation plus all these especially in the past couple of years, the like really aggressive, powerful red cards. They just pile up in a way that is just, that shit's brutal. I'm okay with being the like cube Canlander boomer that I am. Because I mean, hey, at least when I'm losing to mono red, if I lose to it in Canlander, yeah, I probably deserved it. If I lose to it in pre-modern, I'm dying to Lightning Bolt. Who cares? I lose to it in Cube. I go, well, God bless him for not playing Boros. It's a nice spot, but I can understand. Like, this card's not fun, right? And like the fact that it is entering Magic the Gathering through standard is a little annoying, right? Because it's like, dog, nobody wants to play with this shit. Nobody wants to play with this. Except for real sickos. It's nice though. Red's been really bad in standard, so they gotta give it some juice. Kappa. Zuko's offense. 1 red for a sorcery. Zuko's offense deals 2 damage to any target. Shocks aren't good anymore, and that's really sad. Sorcery speed shock. It's so funny because for the longest time, we talked about how many shocks would be too many shocks. And we talked about sorcery speed shock. Like, these were the conversations Canlander players were having, where it's like, how many shocks is too many shocks for mono red? Would you just play shock if it were a sorcery, nothing else attached to it? And often the answer was, there's no such thing, and yes. But now, RDW is not playing shock. Aside from like a really low to the ground version that is looking to beat out combo heavy metagame, as opposed to like a metagame with Barrogoyfs and Shield Druids and Triumph of St. Catherine's and whatnot. And even then, I don't think you're playing this. This is the kind of Magic card where I will pick up a copy of it, and I don't know if I'd ever sleeve it up. I can't foresee myself sleeving up this card. But maybe one day, when I just want to max out on the amount of shocks that I'm playing, this is a reasonable card to return to. When I recently played that, I played a version of mono red that had the pingers and it was heavy on the burn. And I decided to return to a type of card that we kind of said goodbye to like 5 years ago, which is Lava Spikes. I included Lava Spike and Bolt Wave in my mono red deck. Because it was a cheap burn spell, triggered off the Thermo Alchemists, the Firebrand Archers, whatever. And it's just like a nice spell that I could hit off a Reckless Impulse and be like, oh, sure, I'll throw this at your face and then I'll play something next turn. They were so good, which is kind of funny. I don't think what I'm about to say is going to necessarily apply to Zuko's offense, but it is something to keep in mind where Magic players, especially Canlander players, have the tendency to be like, oh, we're not playing Lava Spike anymore. And they do that like Andy from Toy Story, like, I don't want to play with you. And then they drop the Labubu or whatever. But like you can pick that bad boy up. Just because Lava Spike or Shocks are not in vogue right now doesn't mean they are going to be unplayable forever, right? Highlander is a format where there are different sub builds, different cards coming out, metagames reacting to different ways. And like, if I'm sitting down and be like, that's a Citadel Storm player, that's a Breach Storm player, like there are 2 to 3 Barrowgoyf players in the room, I'm just going to dodge the Barrowgoyf players or just hope that when I play them, they don't have it. And I'm going to play Lava Spikes. Or you're like, I'm playing Lava Spike because of these Barrowgoyf players, because I'm not beating them with Scorching Shot even. Like it's, I Scorching Shot it once, they fucking unearth it, and we're back where we are. I'm just going to go to the Dome. I'm going to play my Mog Fanatic, block, sack, ping you, then throw I'm getting real Canadian. Throw a Lava Spike at your head there, bud. Right? Like, it's cool. That's a great part of our format. So I'm going to pick up a copy of Zuko's Offense. Maybe sometime down the line, I'm going to want to play it. I'm not going to want to play it right now. That's for sure. But maybe sometime. I'll return to Shocks and go, well, I'm glad that I own a copy of this. On to green. We have Animal Attendant. This is a card that slipped out of the set review. 1 and a green for a 2/2 human citizen. With tap, add 1 mana of any color. And if that mana is spent to cast a non-human creature spell, that creature enters with an additional 1/1 counter on it. This card is very similar to Biophagus from the Warhammer 40,000 product. The big difference is Biophagus is a 1/3. This is a 2/2. As well as Biophagus just says, hey, you add 1 mana of any color. If you use that to cast any creature, it gets bigger. And this cares about non-humans only, which is a little disappointing because, there are a lot of creatures that just happen to be humans. But this is not nothing. I think that if you are a deck with a diverse enough spread of creature types, like a Gruul Monsters strategy, and you like Biophagus and you want some redundancy for that, and you want redundancy in a creature that a 2/2 is a little more aggressive than a 1/3, that's for sure. This card is totally fine. Getting a 3/3 Broadside Bombardiers, getting your Headliner Scarlet's not going to be a 4/4, but this bad boy still casts Minsk and Boo, still makes Questing Beast a 5/5, still makes your Mana Dorks 2/2s, whatever. And has a bit of an easier time pushing damage. It's kind of nice. Redundancy. Probably why we didn't talk about it on the set review, but redundancy. Ta-da! Where the hell is my cursor? Badger Mole Cub. Okay. 2/2 is a bit awkward. It dies to Zuko's Offense. I think we have one of the funnier chats around, I gotta say. I'm not just buttering you up, Marvelith. I think we got a pretty funny chat here. Badger Mole Cub, 1 and a green for a 2/2 Badger Mole. When this creature enters, Earthbend 1. I think this is the first time we're talking about Earthbending. I also don't think I explained Waterbending and Firebending when we're here, but Earthbending is a little more complicated. So Earthbending says target creature you control becomes a target land you control, becomes a 0/0 creature with haste that's still a land. Then you put N 1/1 counters on it, and when it dies or is exiled, you return it to the battlefield tapped. So this comes into play. A land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste. It's still a land, puts 1/1 counter on it. And when that land dies or is exiled, return to the battlefield tapped. And then, whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green mana. I can't believe how... I can because my co-hosts are Surgeon Nelson. But they were so high on this card. I feel like I've generally been pretty low. I'm not completely off this card. I could see trying this out in Hoof. I could see trying this card out in a Gaia's Cradle big mana deck. Maybe that mono green lands deck that I played that was quite good. Maybe getting another 2-drop that does something is pretty interesting. But I'm not over the moon over this card, like 2-drop Mana Dorks have gotten so good And this doesn't add additional mana by itself. Earthbending's so weird too. Earthbending is just like, it's so funny because it has the built-in security for dies in exiled and then just gets unsummoned, which is really funny to me. You could just boomerang their, I mean, you could always boomerang proper their lands, but you could just be like, oh, I'm going to Vapor Snag or Jace minus bounce your land, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I think this card has a home. The Gaia's Cradle decks that I talked about, Hoof, whatever. But maybe Nadu as well, because that's a deck, or Seeker Walk, because that's a deck with a bunch of mana dorks that also values having a bunch of creatures in play, more bodies for your Nadu to trigger and so forth. But it is interesting to see how mana dorks have changed. I've seen some people playing for their, what the hell is this card called? No. Overgrown Zealot. Like, people like playing the wall mana dorks. Like, we saw people playing the Overgrown Battlement Wall of Roots Sylvan Caryatid package, which is quite good. And then they kind of moved away from it because of the initiative, and they're like, well, it sucks when like somebody takes the initiative and I have these creatures that can attack. And then there was more of a move to be like, actually, we should all just be playing Priest of Titania. Priest of Titania is so fucked. And like, we should be playing Quirion Ranger in all these decks, which frankly, I'm still in that camp. I really like the Walls package. I still play the Walls package, but we moved into the Priest of Titania package. Then we're like, actually, hold on. All of our things are dying to Pyrokinesis and they're dying to Fury, and we're getting Renin Sixth, and that sucks. And then people move to playing Overgrown Zealot. It's from Duskborn. It's like a 2-mana 0/4 that adds 1 mana of any color and happens to be an elf, which is really funny. And so, you know, there's some evolution in how you... the mana dorks you select, the mana dorks that you add to your deck. Obviously, Fanatic of Ronus is like the best 2-mana dork to be printed, and well, since Priest of Titania. But yeah, kind of interesting. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm lower on this card than my co-hosts. It has a home, but also that home is in constant flux, bending to whatever your deck needs to compete in that meta. And I can see versions of your Mana Dork package where you don't want to play this card, you know? Elemental Teachings. 4 and a green for an instant. It's a lesson. Search your library for up to 4 land cards with different names and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest on the battlefield tapped. Really cool take on a Gifts Ungiven meets Hour of Promise. You get to put 2 lands into play for 5 mana at instant speed. And you get to also just put some lands in your graveyard. And I believe the way that this is worded says you get 4 cards and the cards get put into the graveyard first, and then the rest get put into play, meaning that the lands will be in your graveyard before the lands are going to try to enter play, so that a replacement ability on Echoing Deeps or Depths or whatever the fuck that land's called will work with you. Like it'll work out. You can copy something in the graveyard, have it enter as a copy of one of the lands you put in the graveyard, which is kind of nice. These big mana land strategies are also just so much better than they look. I think I gotta tell you, I'm a little surprised that these decks don't see more play. Because they're really good and they're really fun. You know? Like, I'm basing a lot of this also just on local experience, right? But like, Victoria, BC gets a bit of the Victoria metagame gets a bit of a reputation of just, there are more creature-based aggressive decks running around. A lot of Blood Moons. That's not entirely untrue, but it also just ignores, you know, the fact that the people playing those decks have been playing those decks for like a decade plus. And the people that swap around to like different configurations of blue or combo may not have all the reps with that exact deck when we're talking about a format that really like rewards knowledge of what your opponent is doing as early as turn one, what their exact configuration is, and to an extent, what cards in that archetype my opponent as a human enjoys, right? And so there's a lot of blood moons running around, is I guess what I'm saying. And the blood moons are getting plopped into play by players that have been playing blood moon for longer than some of the players, than a majority of players in this format have been playing this format, right? And yet we still have players killing people with fucking Hour of Promise, Field of the Dead decks. And that's beautiful. Time Walk, like the Valakut Scapeshift Time Walk lands decks, the Jacob Varro Field of the Dead Take Over the Game lands decks. They're good. They can show up. They can persist through all this blood mooning. And that's beautiful. And I'd like to see them branch out. We've seen them branch out a bit. But yeah, this card can be just used as like, I'm going to grab Field of the Dead and, I don't know, Caracas or Shifting Woodland. Maybe I get an Echoing Deeps. Maybe I get a Thespian Stage Dark Depths. Maybe you get whatever. You get to customize, right? Oh, sorry, Mulder. I think that's pretty cool. You saw World Gorger last Monday? Oh, hell yeah. World Gorger might be the worst deck I ever back-to-backed with. Because I remember bringing World Gorger. Not to be old man Wheeler, and I wonder if I can find my list, because... hold on, let me boot up Tapped Out. Because people talked about World Gorger, but it hadn't really won any events or showed up. And I built World Gorger Reanimator, and I won 2 tournaments in a row. And this was when YJ had like 40 to 50 person events. Like these were fucking massive. Let me see if I can find it. And I remember being like, oh my God, I'm such a genius. I mean, I didn't actually say this. Hold on. But I remember being like, damn, he really cracked it, you know? He figured it out. Only to then proceed to lose a shitload. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's one of them. Look at this bad boy. December 2017. Let's see. My points were Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, Imperial Seal, Intuition. Beat Blue-White in the finals. Champion of Wits, anybody? Bonded Fetch? I was playing Bonded Fetch. This is a 3-mana O2 Defender Haste, tap, draw a card, discard a card. The Woo Spy? I felt this was my favorite kill. For those that don't know, World Gorger Dragon is a 6-mana 7/7 flying trample dragon. When it comes to play, you exile all other permanents you control. And when it leaves play, you return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. So World Gorger comes, you animate dead, necromancy, dance to the dead, World Gorger Dragon. It comes into play. It then exiles all your permanents. Because animate dead, dance to the dead, necromancy got exiled, you sack the World Gorger Dragon. Because the World Gorger Dragon is sacked, everything comes back into play, which then reanimates the World Gorger Dragon. You do this getting, if you have untapped mana, infinite mana. If you have ETBs, you get infinite ETBs. Which is why you have all these creatures that ETB and draw a card, discard a card. Or if you have cards with haste, and activate abilities or instants, you can, use them in response or with the triggers on the stack. Really good with Bizarra Baghdad, which maybe this is why this deck wasn't really played, is that, there, weren't a lot of Bizarra Baghdads running around. And, yeah, my kill with this deck, You had Una, Queen of the Fae, which was very funny. Just add like infinite mana, then you Una and mill your opponent out. My actual favorite kill though is Tasigur. So you'd get Tasigur in play, and then you'd activate Tasigur. You'd have infinite mana, then you'd activate Tasigur to mill your deck and return everything back to your hand after you generated infinite mana. And then you would compulsive research targeting them. They draw 3, then discard 2 or a land, and then you Tasigur back the compulsive research, and you would deck them with compulsive research Tasigur. Oh man, this deck ruled. I miss it a lot, but like it was not as good as it looked. Like I won like 2 back-to-backs and maybe 3 total this year with this deck, or maybe it was 2018. And it was just it wasn't actually that good. You can respond to it with like Swords to Plowshares or whatever. Just so many things could break it up. Anywho, the good old days. Yeah, the golden age of Highlander. Shared Roots. 1 and a green for a sorcery lesson. Search your library for a basic land card, put it into play, tap, then shuffle. It's rampant growth if it were a lesson. It being a lesson doesn't really matter, so it's just rampant growth. That's very cool. Rampant growth, pretty good card. Again, I'm pretty sure the rampant growth into big idiots or a bunch of lands do things decks are wildly underplayed. I've been meaning to throw together Jund Scapeshift again, where it's just your points are like Demonic Tutor, Vamp Tutor, Minsk and Boo, Renin 6, some other garbage. And you're just like rampant growthing up to like Valakut and Field of the Dead. And I think that's pretty cool. Tale of Katara and Toph. 2 and a green for an enchantment. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped for the first time during each of your turns, you put a 1/1 counter on it. Every set it feels like we get a 3-mana enchantment that you're like, okay, it doesn't technically do something, but once it starts doing the thing, it's going to get out of control. There was one from Final Fantasy. What is it? Something Maze? I should really know what this is called. It's the 2-mana Sphere Grid. That's what it was. Sphere Grid. Like 2 mana, when somebody hits them, it gets bigger. There was one from Edge that was like when a land comes into play, you put counters on things. That sort of card. This one's kind of interesting because it just needs to be tapped. So your mana dork's getting bigger. Tapping a Mother of Ruins to push through damage is pretty nice. Just obviously going to attacks. Like this also reads as whenever each creature has, whenever it attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on it. That's pretty cool. Pretty reasonable card. I may avoid playing this just so I don't have to have a card with children naked aside from towels in my deck. But you know what? Have you talked to anime fans? It's a coin flip on whether or not they're going to be a pedophile. Anyways, the Cabbage Merchant is the next card. 2 and a green for a 2/2 legendary human citizen. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you create a food token. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you sacrifice a food token. And you can tap 2 untapped food you control to add 1 mana of any color. Apparently, I am the cabbage guy. I guess on the paper fight, or not paper fight, what is it called? The PPR. On the PPR in the intro, everybody's name popped up next to a card, and I'm the cabbage guy. Which I like cabbage. I would wager that I probably enjoy cabbage more than most people at Loading Ready Run. Now, that's a big claim to make, but I'm willing to make it. You can't listen to Buttons back for the 3rd month. Still here, and man, ain't it great. Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words and the support. Glad to have you. Good to see ya. This is a card that made a bunch of hubbub in CDH. We are not CDH. We're a different format, but it's nice to hear, you know, when when people are excited for a card over there and see whether or not I could see play in here. I think Nelson said it the best when if there's a card that says tap your food for mana, you're probably interested in playing it. The creature deal combat damage to you sack a food is annoying, but there are a lot of spots where that's actually okay. You have cards that trigger off of you sacrificing permanents, sacrificing artifacts, sacrificing food, but you might not always have the mana, and so sometimes it can work in your favor. And then obviously just getting a cabbage or two out of this card is pretty nice. I'm not super high on this card, but I'd be interested in trying it out in one of the food time sieve type of strategies. I could see Cameron being a big cabbage guy. Yeah, maybe Cameron or Nelson are also cabbage enjoyers. I don't know about Graham, but I could see Ian being a cabbage guy too. Yeah. On to gold and our first flip card, Aang at the Crossroads. So he won't be lonely. 2 green, white, and a blue for a 3/3 legendary human avatar ally with flying. And when Aang enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You can put a creature card with mana value 4 or less from among them into play. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. When another creature you control leaves the battlefield, transform Aang at the beginning of your next upkeep. And then Aang is... we had Roku earlier. Don't correct me. Just let it happen. Aang, Destined Savior, a 4/4 legendary avatar ally with flying. Land creatures you control have vigilance at the beginning of combat on your turn, Earthbend 2. This is a magic card that I tried to play. I included it in my Blink deck. I did not see it, and I was upset I didn't see it because I think this card's pretty good. I think it goes in exactly that one deck because it's a 5-drop. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's going to be able to put a large creature, going to put a reasonably large creature into play. The fact that you can find yourself like an initiative creature, basically everything that isn't Solitude, right? Or Quantum Riddler. Like Aang basically reads, when I come into play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put anything that isn't Quantum Riddler or Solitude into play. The rest on the bottom of your library in a random order is pretty dope. You do need to have Gaia's Cradle and Moxen, but and Mana Dorks. If you're going that route, then you're going to want to play Aang anyways. It's like one, you don't get one without the other. And then the backside is okay, but honestly, I just want to keep doing the front side. The backside will kill people. If they Caracas it, they're in for a world of hurt. But yeah, it's pretty good. That's a lot of value, right? You can get 9 mana worth of cards out of a 5-drop across 2 bodies. And transforming this card is not that difficult in a deck looking to blink things, a deck looking to have cards, like just playing a bunch of, you play fucking Coiling Oracles and stuff, they're going to die, it's going to transform, you're good. Onto Aang, Swift Savior. 1 white and a blue for a 2/3 legendary human avatar ally with flash and flying. And when Aang enters, airbend up to 1 other target creature or spell. Then for Waterbend 8, you can transform Aang into Aang and Law, Ocean's Fury, a 5/5 legendary avatar spirit ally with reach and trample. Whenever Aang and Law attack, put a 1/1 counter on each tapped creature you control. Of course, this is the first double face card that we've talked about. This card is absurd. My evaluation on this card was that it was pretty good, but maybe a little narrow. And then also, you're never going to waterbend this. Maybe 1 out of 100 games. Not to spoil anything. This card is not as narrow as I thought, and you are going to waterbend this. Like it just happens. You're just like, oh, I've bricked your thing. I've saved my card. I've saved my own counterspell. Whatever. And then you play the game of Magic the Gathering. It's dog shit to Caracas this card. It gets compared to Spell Queller. It is not Spell Queller. Because Spell Queller, you have to protect with your fucking life. You have to make sure that Spell Queller stays in play for the rest of the game, or else it feels terrible. Not this guy. He just comes down, airbends something. They're like, I'm going to kill this. You're like, okay, sure, it dies. Or you're like, I'll Caracas it. And that thing is still airbended. It's still in gay baby jail. Then you replay this and, we're off to the races. And you'll waterbend. Spoiler alert. It's so funny that I said I can't foresee a world where I waterbend this, maybe 1 out of 100 games, and you're not judging this on your ability to waterbend, the same way you're not judging a Planeswalker on its ability to ultimate. I stand by that last sentence, but the very first game I played with this, I believe I transformed it like on curve, and I was just like, well, I've already mucked your 1 card, you're behind on tempo, I'm going to make a 6/6 trampler that has now buffed the rest of my team. Now you're behind on tempo. You want to cast the card that you tried to cast last turn, but also you now have to deal with the 6/6. And if you want to Caracas it, then I'm just going to airbend all your shit. This card is so good. It may actually be the best card in the set. I'd be interested in trying this in Jeskai. I'd be interested in trying this in Angels Esper Flash deck. I could see it in like blue-white control, Bant, Esper, like Esperphilia, kind of mid-range stuff. This card's just really good. I would like to play more of this card. Abandon Attachments. 1 in a hybrid blue-red for an instant. It's a lesson. You can discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. So fucking funny. I mean, look, I may get some hate for this, but I mostly care about Magic cards in terms of the words on the card. If it's a card that was printed after, I don't know, 2020, I only care about the cards, the words on the card, and how they play mechanically. And because of that, I actually enjoyed a lot of the individual cards from Spider-Man. But it's so funny that we get this card, Romantic Rendezvous, which is 2 mana sorcery, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. And then we immediately get a card that is admittedly different, but in a lot of situations is just the card that you want to play. Instant is better than sorcery. Being hybrid blue-red is great because this is a blue card, or it's a red card, or in the case of Force of Will and Fury and Pyrokinesis and Subtlety, it can fill all of that. You don't have to discard the card when you cast this. It's not great to do in response to Hull Breacher. Or sorry, it's not great if in response to this they Hull Breach you or Orcish Bowmasters, but they give you an out to not fuck yourself. But also, 2 mana instant speed in blue, as a part of resolving this card, you can pitch a card if you do draw 2 cards. Great. The Romantic Rendezvous, if you are Hellbent and you cast it, you still get to draw the cards, which is nice. But you're blue, so you're not going to get Hellbent. Great. This card is really good. This card is really good. Air Nomad Legacy. White and a blue for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create a clue token. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. This is a Favorable Winds. Originally printed in, I want to say, Ixalan. Oh no, AVR, right, because they had the Gryphs. This is a copy of Favorable Winds that happens to also be white and brings along a clue token. This card being multicolor makes it a lot better because it pitches to Solitude. I know that sounds like a meme, but you gotta believe me, it is so much stronger that it does that in a deck that's looking to just play a bunch of cheap duders that also might want to Mulder got inside a paper bag. What are you doing? Hi. Hi. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing in there? Also, please ignore the paper bag that I left on the ground. I did not expect to stream today. Cats fitting into bags and boxes. I agree. Mulder is not one of those cats. Mulder is not a if I fits, I sits cat. She is fickle. She is picky. She does not do that. That's the only reason I'm showing you. Because she does not do that. And that is very cute, but also I'm kind of like, why did you do that, Mulder? You know? When your 19-year-old cat does something that you have basically never seen her do in her entire life, you gotta be a little like, are you okay? Anyway, sorry. This card being white sounds like it's a meme, but the fact that we are looking to be a cheap, evasive, aggressive deck that wants to sacrifice card advantage for the sake of tempo or the sake of just getting the problem out of the way in terms of like Solitude, in terms of March of Otherworldly Light. This being a white card is great for that. Replacing itself is nice. You get the clue because this is a deck where, yeah, you may 2-for-1 yourself quite a bit just to keep the pressure up. But you're also a deck that's going to keep up mana to hold counter magic, to be able to, you know, play to the board or whatever. And it's very cool that you get a clue to replace itself. And then it's just going to buff your team. This is an interesting deck. I'm probably going to put this together and maybe bring it to a Highlander stream with Angel once these cards are available. Dragonfly Swarm. 1 blue and a red for a dragon insect, star 3 with flying and ward 1. This creature's power is equal to the number of non-creature, non-land cards in your graveyard. When this creature dies, if there's a lesson card in your graveyard, draw a card. So, we have a card that is very close to Spellheart Chimera. Hands up if you have seen Spellheart Chimera in the past 5 years. Oh, nobody. Nobody? Huh. Well, if this isn't quite Enigma Drake, even though this has ward 1, it still has 3 toughness. Not only does that mean that you'll get that obviously a lightning bolt or a galvanic discharge is going to deal with the Dragonfly Swarm, but also this card is just going to trade with 3 power flying creatures. So Brazen Borrower, to a lesser extent Vendilion Clique and friends, and that's not great. For those that don't know what Spellheart Chimera is, this is Spellheart Chimera. 1 blue and a red for a star 3 flying trampler that has power equal number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. Back in the day, Is It Tempo in Highlander would play this magic card because it would quite regularly get up to being like a 7/3. And then they printed Delve cards. And then it became a little harder to do that, but you still played it because this had trample and it could push through, Lingering Souls tokens and stuff. It was a different time. The Dragonfly Swarm does get bigger from baubles, enchantments, planeswalkers, anything that hits the board. And then the last line of text, if it dies while there's a lesson in your graveyard, is kind of funny to look at because you're like, haha, lessons are bad. They don't see play. But like, I don't know. I could see a world where a deck playing Dragonfly Swarm may find itself playing the Abandon Attachments card that happens to be a lesson, or there's a new Shore Up called Octopus Form. It wasn't in my set because it's just, we have so many copies of this card. Where this happens to be a lesson that you can help protect your cards. I'm not saying that this is going to happen every single game, but this is like a classic 1 in 100 games where you may draw a card from this. These cards don't see play anymore. Murktide Regent and Abhorrent Oculus are just better than Enigma Drake. Crackling Drake sees play occasionally in like Blue Moon decks, but also those cards just don't die to bolt. And Crackling Drake does always replace itself, even if it's a little more expensive and counts cards in exile. So it's a little unfortunate because, like, damn, 10 years ago, we would have been so fucking stoked to get this card. But now it's just the Ward 1 doesn't do enough. The 3 toughness, it's just not enough. And yeah, it's a little unfortunate. You know, it's one of those cards you look at and you're like, damn, we really aren't playing the same format we used to be playing, you know? Long Feng Grand Secretariat. 1 and then 2 hybrid Golgari for a 2/3 legendary human advisor. That says whenever another creature you control or a land you control is put into a graveyard from play, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. This magic card combos with Basking Broodscale, I believe. You sacrifice your spawn token, Tata Mana, and then Longfang triggers, and you put a counter on the Broodscale, and then you get to make another token. Broodscale combo is something that has not seen a ton of play in our format, but I think that's probably a mistake, especially as we're getting more and more pieces that can enable a different paths for the Broodscale deck to kill. Also, this combos with Scurry Oak too, right? Scurry Oak and a sack outlet. Because you put a counter on this, Scurry Oak makes a squirrel, you sack the squirrel, Longfang triggers, put a counter on Scurry Oak. Yeah, there are some combo applications with this. This is another one that people, I think, were a little unfair to Serge and Nelson about. Where they're like, Longfang doesn't combo with Kitchen Finks. You're getting it wrong. And it's like, well, hold on. It can combo with Kitchen Finks. You just need to have another, like, persist creature. But also, give them a break. They're old. Serge and Nelson are 40 years or older. They've got things on their mind. They've got, like, fucking mortgages to pay, dog. They don't spend 12 hours a day on Discord. They give them a break. I just kept my mouth shut because, you know, I think that it's better for the sake of the show to not be like, actually, dumbass, what you're thinking of is this card. But yeah. Anywho, Broodscale combo, pretty good. Sandbender Scavengers. White and a black for a 1/1 human rogue that says whenever you sacrifice another permanent, you put a 1/1 counter on this creature. When this creature dies, you may exile it, and when you do, return target creature card with mana value less than or equal to this creature's power from your graveyard to play. What's the... There's a white-black card from Edge. Servondum? 2 mana, 2/2, Vigilance Menace. Whenever another creature you control dies or is put into exile, put a counter on it. When it dies or is put into exile, while its power is 4 or greater, exile up to 1 target permanent. Okay. I think white-black sacrifice. I'm not going to spoil anything because Nelson was playing a white-black aristocrats style deck on a North 100 Showdown we recorded. And I think that we are getting to a point where we need to differentiate between aristocrats and a sacrifice deck. An aristocrats deck is just going to play a ton of small idiots, like you're maxing out on your Doom Travelers and everything. I think a sacrifice deck is going to have more of a mid-range game. Aristocrats is like the synergy combo deck that occasionally mid-ranges, whereas the sacrifice deck is a mid-range deck that occasionally synergy combo kills, you know? Think of it like Fable the Mirror Breaker. Fable the Mirror Breaker, incredibly powerful, grindy mid-range card that just occasionally is like, oh, by the way, I'm going to make a copy of FOMO, and then FOMO untaps this. I'm going to make a copy of FOMO, and then FOMO untaps this. That sort of thing. This card, this sacrifice approach is just like, yeah, you're just going to play Magic the Gathering. You just happen to have more cards that sack things. You happen to have a couple of little duders you could sacrifice. You're going to kind of outgrind your opponent. And then if you're like, well, we've ground this to a halt, now I'm going to combo kill you. Or you're like, I need to go really fast and combo kill my opponent because my mid-range game plan is not going to work. So you got some interesting ways to approach this deck. Some interesting differentiating qualities for a way to build this deck. Hold on. I'm going to put on... I think this is an appropriate album to put on. I'm going to put on I Am by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Sokka Bold Boomeranger. Blue and a red for a 1/1 legendary human warrior ally. When Sokka enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. Whenever you cast an artifact or a lesson spell, put a 1/1 counter on Sokka. I'm not too impressed by Sokka. It's just a little awkward. Like, you want to cast artifacts to get the most out of this card, but if I'm playing this in an artifact deck, and it's not an artifact, it's a little kind of odd. Especially as we've been receiving more and more, like, it's so weird to say because, like, yeah, Affinity is a bunch of artifact cards that care about artifacts, but we've been receiving more and more cards that are artifacts that care about artifacts that only want you to play artifacts, and we're actually getting to a density where that's possible. And every non-artifact card you play pulls away from that density. But also, as you are adding more and more artifact cards and cutting the bad non-artifact cards, then playing 1 or 2 non-artifact cards is okay. But I don't know if this is the non-artifact card you want to play. I feel like I just said the word non-artifact a bunch. Don't play Sokka, is what I'm trying to say. Pools of War. White and a black for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, you create a clue token. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent during your turn, you create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. This card is pretty similar to Hidden Stockpile from Aether Revolt, which is a 2-mana enchantment that has Revolt at the beginning of your end step. If a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, you make a 1/1 servo, and you can pay a generic to sack a creature and scry. Although this is going to... Yeah, it's basically the same thing, except it comes with a clue. If you like Hidden Stockpile, you can play a second copy of this card. Now, Hidden Stockpile gives you a sack outlet that can be done at instant speed for a single mana. That's pretty good. This does not give that, but it does replace itself and gives you a permanent to sacrifice immediately. I think if you're playing Tools of War, you should also be playing Hidden Stockpile. If you're playing Hidden Stockpile, you might not necessarily be playing Tools of War, but your life is probably better if you're playing both. On to Colourless. We have Meteor Sword. 7 mana artifact equipment with equip cost for 3 generic. When this equipment enters, destroy target permanent. Equip creature gets +3/+3. Has equip for 3 generic. This is a Vindicate that you can Stoneforge Mystic into play. Or it's just a big equipment with an ETB that blows something up. We've seen a couple of larger pieces of equipment. Let me see if I can... When this enters... We've seen larger pieces of equipment with ETBs. And I'm not talking about like Assimilation Aegis or pre-war formal wear. I'm talking about what is it called? Hidden Blade? No, not Hidden Blade. There's a version of this that sees some legacy play in black. Oh, here it is. Phantom Blade. 5 mana equipment. When an ETB is destroyed up to 1 creature, you attach it to a creature and then you destroy target creature, and equipped creature gets +1/+1 menace. Right. There's some other like smaller, less impactful abilities that have an ETB attached to this, but the Assassin's Creed one is the one that I was thinking of. It's cool to be like, damn, my Stoneforge Mystic can tutor up this card and I can blow up anything. But 7 mana is so much fucking mana. At least the black one, 5 mana, ton of mana, but not a huge amount of mana, right? Like, definitely castable in a deck that is likely on double Mox or Mana Crypt in its point spread. 7 mana is a big ask. If you play Stoneforge and get a copy of Phantom Blade and they kill the Stoneforge, you're like, well, this is going to be slow, but I will get to cast the Phantom Blade. If you get Meteor Sword and they kill your Stoneforge, you're going to be like, well, shit. It's cool. I just don't see it being real. Certainly, these kind of cards are also better in formats where you can play 4 copies of Stoneforge, because if they kill your first one, your second one can just poop it out. Obviously we have tools to return Stoneforge to play, Helping Hands and pre-war formal wares and Savine's Reclamations and all that, but we're just not doing it. Planetarium of Wan Shi Tong. This is a 6 mana legendary artifact that has an activated ability of pay 1 generic, tap, scry 2, and whenever you scry or surveil, look at the top card of your library. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Do this only once each turn. This is such a fun Magic card. I cannot wait to play this. I am legitimately going to try this out in the Timmy Tinker strategy. Like, just being able to cheat out a big Eldrazi off of this. If you whiff on the first one, you at least get to set up your deck to do it again next turn. Or you do it once and then you get out a big threat. They have to deal with that. And then they're not dealing with the Planetarium, which means you get to do it again. Obviously, this this can activate on your opponent's turn as well. So you can activate this on your turn to look for something, and on their turn you can, like, I don't know, fire off an Opt or a Consider or a Surveil land and get something. It's a lot better than it looks, even if it's so goofy. Yeah. And it gets around timing restrictions too, because it just says whenever you do this, you can cast that card. It's not until end of turn cast that card. It's just like, yeah, you get to cast this card. It's easily the stupidest card that I am going to kill people on like turn 2 with. When we record North 100 Showdown next, I will be bringing Timmy Tinker, and this is a card that is going to show up in that. Onto the lands. We have a cycle of rare lands, 1 for each color. They're quite good. I'm going to talk about all of them individually, but I'm not going to read, the mana ability of them every single time. So the Abandoned Air Temple is the white one. They all add one of the colors in the mana pool, right? Like we have a Wooburg assortment here. They enter tapped unless you control a basic land. Then they have an activated ability. The white one has pay 3 and a white, tap, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. I mean, what can I say? What can you say? Right? It's kind of funny because this is not strictly better than Gavany Township. And in fact, I wonder if this card is going to cause more people to be like, hey, wait a minute, should I be playing Gavany Township? Because if I'm playing like a white-green creature deck, I think I'm playing this and Gavany Township. Gavany Township is a very haha, look at this Magic card that just ends the game. That card is so good. Obviously, because this is not white-green, you can play this in like Mardu tokens. You can play this in black-white. You can play this in mono-white. This card's great. Relatively easy free roll. I'm going to be playing this card in Death and Taxes and most White X creature decks. It's a nice little utility land. Blue-White Flying Men? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't built that deck yet. But you're probably going to play some utility lands. The fact that it adds white in a deck that is going to be primarily blue is a little iffy, but Agna Kella, this is the blue one. 2 and a blue, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. It's Desolate Lighthouse. It's so funny. I could see myself playing this in a Reanimator deck, or like a 2-color Reanimator deck, maybe a 3-color Reanimator deck. I could see myself playing this in Blue Moon. These utility lands are so good, chat. Like, they are so good. Highly recommend it. Even though this only you look at this and you're like, why would I want to play this? I cannot tell you how much better Desolate Lighthouse is when it adds blue and also lets you like activate for only blue. That's really good. That's really good. Like, the fact that you can go island into this or play this on turn 1 into a fetch land, and then you have counterspell mana. Great. Very cool. Boss Sing Say. This is the green one. You pay 2 to green, tap to Earthbend 2. Activate only as a sorcery. This one's kind of interesting. Technically, it is a land that can repeatedly strip your opponent out. Which is kind of nice. That's expensive and slow, but the fact that it can be done exclusively through lands makes it kind of interesting. Definitely a card that I'm going to try out in the mono green lands deck that I played. May consider it for some of the 3-color or 2-color lands decks. Don't know about this in the 4-color one. But definitely that mono green one. That deck was so good. That deck was so good. Can't wait for Battle Wolf Run. Wilco, please. I am really happy with how infrequently people play Kessig Wolf Run, despite the fact that that card is so good. Honestly, if here, come here. You want a free best card you're not playing? Hey, Gruul players. Play this card. Play Skarg the Rage Pits. This card is fucking great. It taps for a colorless, not ideal, but you pay green and a red, tap to give target creature +1/+1 and trample. I am so happy that people do not play this card, because this card is so good. It is legit so powerful. It's same with like Pendlehaven. The fact that people don't play Pendlehaven in a lot of the green decks is great, because like these cards can really change the tempo of the game. They are so frustrating to play against. They change the math of just like any creature deck. They're wild. Kessig Wolf Run, obviously quite good too. Higher ceiling on Kessig Wolf Run, but like Skarg is less mana intensive. Like, with Skarg in play, imagine you just have this emblem that says pay 3 mana, target creature gets +1/+1 and trample. Only once per turn though. Just cool. Nice Barrel Goyf. Now I can push through damage. Now I can kill you. I'll trade with my thing. Like, it's great. Yeah, great art too. Fire Nation Palace. This is the red one. 1 and a red, tap, target creature you control gains firebending 4 until end of turn. This one's a bit of a whiff. It's firebending 4 is just unnecessary. That's so much fucking mana. Incredibly commander coded. Yeah, not worth it. This is one of those lands where you're like, oh no, I really do need to have enough mountains to sacrifice to my Fire Blast. Yeah, you're spending 3 mana to get 4 mana, which is not nothing. Castle Garenbrig's a very good Magic card, but you know, 4 mana that you can only use at this point, where like all your spells cost 1 mana and occasionally 2 mana. Now we're good. And then Realm of Ko is the black one. 3 and a black, tap, create a 1/1 colorless spirit token with this creature can't be blocked, this creature can't block or be blocked by non-spirit creatures. Pretty good. Just poops out 1/1s that are more or less unblockable. I mean, You'll run into some spots where they will get blocked, and that'll be kind of funny, but just make some tokens, lets you push damage. I'm kind of interested playing this in 2-color decks, I guess a monocolor deck or whatever. This is not a utility land that you're like, I'm a 3-color control deck and I want a way to like start making tokens and ending the game. This is not going to do that. This is not Moorland Haunt, which reminds me I should play more Moorland Haunt. But in an Aristocrats deck or the Sacrifice deck, or even like maybe Rakdos, it's not that bad. That's a deck that doesn't mind having more mana sinks, even if this gets Blood Mooned. And the Blue-Black Ninjas, right? Like making an unblockable, uncounterable. Like that is so funny that you playing this card in the Ninjas deck means that you have a way of generating tokens that can't be countered and then turning those tokens into additional creatures. Bigger creatures, ninjas, in a way through ninjutsu that can't be countered. Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, that's the set. That's Avatar: The Last Airbender and the Avatar Eternal. Some cool cards here. Nothing's going to ruin the format. Some interesting things for pre-existing higher tier formats. Some interesting things for lower tier decks. Yeah, I have grown fonder of this set. The more that I've been playing with it, the more that I've been looking at it, the more that I've been brewing with it. I was initially pretty low. I imagine a lot of that was just, I don't know. I don't want to get into a giant, I don't want to get into a big discussion about how annoying adult Avatar fans are, but that's because I like the show. I like the show. I watched it while it was airing. You know, let's just say I spiraled out while reading the PPR chat live, and also had to explain to some of my coworkers like the show. Anyways, the point is the cards are cool. The cards are good. I'm excited to pick them up. And frankly, even though I enjoyed Spider-Man, like mechanically, a lot of people didn't. And I hope that this is one of those sets that even if it is UB, that people will look at it and be like, okay, hold on. Like maybe it could be okay. Right? Maybe it's okay. Maybe I'll stop being extremely fucking annoying online, because that's all I care about. I just want them to shut the fuck up. I just want to talk about cool cards and using your cool cards for cool things. You know. Yeah. Anywho, that's going to be it. This was a bonus stream. I didn't plan on streaming this. I was going to pre-record this, but I, might as well stream it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I will be streaming again tomorrow. My schedule is up on the Discord. I'm including the times in which I'm streaming on the Discord. I wasn't initially going to stream tomorrow. Monday should be my day off, or Sunday should be my day off. But Desert Bus is coming up, and I desperately need to get. I need to get people to subscribe before Desert Bus, because that always just takes a huge hit. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Reminder that you should subscribe to the YouTube and follow the YouTube, because all the VODs get uploaded there, including this VOD will get up there. There's a free Discord you could join. And that's a cool place. There's a lot of people over there. And you can give me money there, and also subscribe. Moamin, thank you for gifting a sub to the channel. That went to Faruba. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. I'll grovel. I'll beg for money. I'm not above it. We do pretty well around here, but I'll still beg. Let me drop you kids off somewhere. I don't know who's streaming because, well, it's a Sunday night. I don't know. Where are we going? Where am I dropping you? Oh, Dirt Nymph is streaming. They like rats, and they're playing Cube. Oh, they have a Minsk and Boo? All right. Go watch this, and I'll see y'all tomorrow for more Mengu Cube. Okay, bye!